Here? Now I'm here. Hello, everybody. I have returned from a one stream day off, which feels like a long time, to be honest. It completely changes my perception of time because I use stream as a way to measure like what day it is. And like, oh, if I stream today, I know I don't stream tomorrow, but I do the next day. And like, you skip one day and it throws the whole thing out. Um, like today does not feel like a Thursday. And I just had to double check that it was Thursday to confirm that. So yeah, it is Thursday. Okay, so I didn't know what I want to do today, or I don't know. I mean, I kind of know what I want to do today now, because I've been thinking about it. Also, it's funny that the messages from last stream. Is there a way for me to refresh this? The messages from last stream show. Anyway, we're just gonna go like that. I don't know. Turn it off maybe for now. We'll hide it for now. Maybe I can turn it off. Nope. Anyway, but yeah. So I guess what I will do is what was I saying? Gosh, I forgot how to stream. How does streaming work? I don't know how to do this. Oh yes, I need to open up chat first for YouTube so I can see the YouTube chat. Okay, so what was I saying? I know that I want to do, because it's May, and I know I want to do Mermay. Mermay is the monthly event where you paint a bunch of mermaids. There's like a prompt list. You do prompts every day. I'm not going to do that, but I am going to paint mermaids. And because it's a challenge for myself to paint a character. Just one finished character piece. I want the character to be somewhat important to the piece, not like just like a random silhouette. Although I might do some of that. I did this last stream, and honestly, I don't like it. I don't even like the start of it. It's kind of like there is something fun about painting like a monster-y type mermaid, and I probably will still do that, but not that piece. I did some sketches, some gesture drawing yesterday to like draw some mermaids, and I really like that kind of thing. The big, I don't know, like a little bit like creepy looking. So yeah, I'm kind of thinking about how I'm going to do this. So I was thinking about doing, and maybe I'm not going to do this today. I might do it next stream or one of these days when I randomly pivot to something else. But I might do, one of these days I'm thinking I'm going to do like a map crunch stream. So painting from Google Street View, but I'm going to only do areas with bodies of water, and then I'm going to add in like mermaids, and I'm gonna like add in the fantasy element. But I think today I'm just going to try to sketch some scenes with mermaid type characters. So instead of like character, a lot of times I'll sketch scenes like this, and then I'll make like a, here we can remove the setting up thing. Yeah, we'll just delete that. So a lot of times I will basically just make a scene like this, and I'll be like, oh, well, here's a couple characters walking in the field or something, and I'll dark silhouettes or something, and I'll stick them here, and I'll be like, there we go, there's, oh, I already had them, right? I already had them here. Placeholder characters, right? Just kind of random silhouettes to show scale. Maybe add some storytelling. If there's like a crowd of people, I'll make a bunch of them. But that's kind of what I do a lot of times. Well, I want to do kind of that, but these can't be mermaids, right? This makes no, or mer people, I should say. These can't really be mer people, because, they have feet. Technically, I guess mer people can have feet. I actually was talking about this yesterday. Magic the Gathering has, like, their brand of merfolk, which some of them have, like, tails, some of them have feet, but they have, like, finned feet, toes, or whatever, flippered feet. And they have like gills and sort of, they're almost like aliens, kind of like underwater aliens in the sense that they're not specifically looking like mermaids. They're more these like sea people, kind of, if that makes sense. And I kind of like that. I actually really enjoy that brand of person or mermaid. And so I might do some of that, but either way, I don't think it would work that like, oh, just add them to a random scene of like walking through a bunch of flowers. Like, that's not gonna work, in my opinion, for mer people. So I want to do things, like that classic scene, maybe like this where you have, a mer person swimming, and so they'll here you know, here will be the mer person. I don't know how they swim. Arm forward, I guess. You know, you'll have people swimming. Or, and, you know, they'll be shaped more, you know, like that. So if I do add silhouettes, it'll be like this. But also things like, it doesn't have to just be swimming. It could be walking, right? It could be with fins, or maybe sitting on, like, you know, the classic, that Ariel from, Under the Sea. What's the name of that movie? Hey, Kula Yalo, how's it going? The Little Mermaid, that's the one. Who's that Little Mermaid from that one movie? No, so yeah, like Ariel and the Little Mermaid, like there's that rock and she's sitting on it, you know, that classic image. I feel like that's isn't that a pretty, like, I feel like that's a really commonly done image, right? Where like you have the character sitting on the rock out of the water. I think that's a cool way to do it. You could also have that, but they could still have feet. But maybe again, if they have the design of like a sea person, you know, kelp in their hair, seashells for their clothing, that kind of thing, you know, classic stuff. So I think I might do something like that where I try to take scenes with water. You know, there's one of my favorite images of a mer person is, it's gosh, what's it called? I think it was called Triton Scout. That's not the word. That's not what it's called. What is it called? There's a card that in Magic the Gathering that has a mermaid walking into the water. Merfolk Scout? Is that what it's called? No. Merfolk MTG art. Where is it? I'm looking for it to show because it's one of my favorite images because it's not your generic like, you know, character underwater. Like here, let me bring up so for example, this one, I don't know if this is from Magic or here. I'm trying to find one from Magic just so I can make a reasonable argument. So like this, I don't know if this is from Magic or not, but I think it is. Like this to me is pretty cool actually. They're riding a horse. It's a seahorse. It's a mer person, right? I don't know how this works, how they're sitting on it, but they're riding a seahorse. And I think that's pretty cool, but they're still just kind of floating underwater. Like they're not really doing anything. Like I guess they're moving kind of, but this one looks like it's not. They kind of look like they're just looking out, like they're a guard or something. They don't. And I kind of want a scene where they're interacting. So, like, you know, you have this kind of art. Can you guys see this? I don't even know. Yeah. So you have this kind of art where you have, like, a character doing a thing out of the water, which is kind of fun. I'm still looking for, you know, this is a one where it's some sort of, like, caster character. Again, this one has feet, but, you know, he's still a sea person, right? He has the fins and all that. I'm still looking for the art that I really, really like. My favorite. It's my favorite of all the merfolk. Dang it, why can't I find... I don't know what it's called. For being my favorite, you would think I would know the name of it so I could just Google it. I think I've had this problem before where I couldn't find it, and I think maybe it wasn't actually a merfolk. But it... Hey, how's it going, Omi? Hey, Joe, how's it going? You ask. It is going well. I took last stream off. I was super busy. I had a bunch of stuff going on, and also there was a work order coming in in the middle of stream, which makes it so it's very hard to focus on streaming when you know that people are going to randomly knock at your door any minute. And you also don't really know when, so you're just like sitting there waiting and not being able to focus. So I decided to take last stream off. And I'm glad I did. I feel like I needed a little break, but it's good. I'm doing good now. I mean, I was doing good on Monday too, but I didn't stream. So yeah, anyway, I'm gonna paint more mermaids, but I wanted to just find some of the things that I liked. I think this one's fun because it shows some architecture. I also really like this style of mer person. Again, they have feet, but they also have, like, you know, they're like sea shapes, right? Shapes that you might expect to see under the water. their heads are shaped differently. And I've always liked that kind of mer person. It's just a bummer that I can't find... Surely I can find this, right? Well, apparently I cannot find this art. That's okay. I can just describe it. It's basically just a merfolk carrying Guten Abend. How's it going, Alfred? Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well. Okay, so mermaid, people. That's what I'm gonna paint today. These things, characters with tails. Maybe not tails though. We'll see. But not specifically characters. So, open this. I'm gonna make a... Here, let me switch scenes real quick. What am I doing here? If I go to this scene, does this... No, that doesn't have it. File, open. We could go back to this. Maybe that's what we'll do. We're gonna do that. Delete all that. Save it as a new file. Oh, I still realize my chat isn't opened. But yeah, Alfred Afterburner, hope you're doing well. Hope the day is going good. Hope everyone is doing well. What was I doing here? File. We'll come here. Sorry, 1 second. File management. Okay. So, I think what I'm gonna do is start. So what my plan I think is going to be. I'm going to do some thumbnails again, but the second I find a thumbnail that I like, I'm just gonna start on it because I'd like to actually get somewhere. I'd like to actually make some progress today. So. Yeah, you are existing relatively successfully. Oh, that's good. I'm glad you're doing well. Okay, so some of the things I'm thinking of is like, let's just talk through how might a character who has, you know, fins, or maybe not fins, maybe like, so my favorite painting that is of a merfolk or a mer person, there's like a series of stairs and then there's water. So the stairs are going into the water. And then you have a character walking out of the water, like holding like an urn or some shells and stuff. So they're kind of, you know, they're like in motion. They're walking. They're interacting with the environment. They don't look like this. It's very dynamic. And back in the distance, because this is the water, right? And then you can look down. You can see like the ruins of like a civilization. So like coming up out of the water where there's these steps, and there's some stuff poking up out of the water as well. And then you have the character, you know, like walking out of the water. Anyway, that's kind of the scene that I really liked. But so I'm kind of thinking stuff like that. It doesn't have to be walking out of the water. Maybe we are still in the water, but maybe they're, you know, like a character on a throne, and it could be, you know, a mer king or something. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. But I think for starters, I'm just going to start the way that I always do, which is just with mood, with color. Add in some, you know, different colors, underwater colors. I'm not going to be... a couple streams ago, I did some scenes where I was, like, very adamant about not painting. Also, why is the pressure sensitivity so out of whack? It's very intense right now. Like, I press hardly at all, and it's, like, full opacity. Whatever. I can manage. But, yeah, I was very adamant about not using, like, the classic, you know, just bright blue stuff for underwater scenes, because it felt a little over... Okay, this brush is bugging the heck out of me. Is there... Is there another stylus somewhere? I thought I had one displaying here. No, there's none there. It's dark. It's hard to see because it's a black table and nope, and the bad lighting. Okay, where did I put it? Did it fall? No. Okay, well anyway, this stylus will have to do. But basically, I was pretty adamant about not using your standard underwater scene colors because I wanted to explore colors. Today I'm not going to do that. Today I don't really care what colors I use. I'm just going to paint and maybe... Yeah, so I'm thinking, okay, let's do a very low horizon scene. So normally it would be right, like, what if we were really, really looking up into the distance, right? So we have tons of stuff up here. Because this is going to be the sky, right? Or not the sky, but above, out of water. So we'll have, like, somewhere up there will be the water. And so I'm thinking, what if we have some sort of character? Like, let's look at these sketches I did. Like, this one is a person sitting. This one's a person sitting. And I kind of like this, where, like, what if you have a character sitting? Like, on something, right? Maybe there's some rocks. Again, I'm just sketching shapes that are like almost like trees, I guess, just or rocks, whatever you have. Just shapes that are towering, billowing up, kind of. And then on top of one of them, right, you could have a character sitting. So like, here's maybe our hypothetical mermaid, sitting up here, doing mermaid things, like whatever they do, sitting, playing with, I don't know, doing stuff, I guess. I don't know what mermaids do. But, yeah, so that's kind of my plan. So maybe a low scene. I don't know if I'll have one sitting there. I haven't decided yet. I just got to think about it. I want to play with values. I'm going to start with big shapes. And because these are going to be very tall, we'll use some 3-point perspective, I think. Just a little bit. Things just kind of towering up. But yeah, hope everyone's doing well. Alfred Afterburner, hope you're doing well. I mean, you said you were doing well. And if anyone's done any art lately, you should share. I'd love to see what people have been working on. We can also think about playing around with scale. So, here, let me reopen chat. I don't know why chat is... It's been really hard for me to manage chat lately. Okay, so I'm thinking, like, what if these are, like, tall? What if... I'm a big sucker for stairs. I don't know why, but stairs are just super fun to paint because they can be shown in very basic values like this, where you're just putting the values down in horizontal lines, and very, very quickly you can make stairs. And so I'm kind of thinking something like that, where you have some sort of palace type thing, some stairs under the water. Maybe we have a landing in one of these, so that you have, like, the characters. Again, stairs for mermaids. Do they need stairs? I don't know. But we're going to give them feet. We're going to do the footed mermaids. Or, like, I don't know. Maybe they get tired. I don't know. How does that work? So, if you have a mermaid with feet, but they can still swim, but, like, why do they... I don't know what mermaids do. Sounds like the cover of a music album. Well, I'm thinking, like, I want to do some mermaid designs and, like, think about how I might have them in the scene. So, I don't really want them walking. I mean, maybe some of them can be walking, but maybe this is an area and we can just invent the lore here, and maybe it'll help us come up with designs where the water will, like, recede. Like, imagine there is a book I just recently read where there was, like, a city kind of in a lake, in, like, a giant lake, and it sort of rose out of the lake, and then the water kind of pooled off of the things. And so like this place existed underwater hypothetically, and so you can kind of imagine that it could be built for underwater. But then once the water drains and you have all the people going about their day, now they need the structures to walk, right? So like, or like a sunken city, right? Imagine a regular city above ground and then it's sunken and now you occupy it, but you want to be able to occupy both the swimming, you know, so maybe something like that. Also, this is kind of, I don't like that 1-point perspective. But yeah, I don't really know. I'm thinking about like, what would a mermaid be doing underwater, right? They can't be sitting there eating a sandwich. I mean, they could be eating something like a fish. I don't know. They could be hunting, right? They could be fighting. There could be a group of them. They could be going to a festival, maybe, you know, music festival, underwater music, you know, like the seashell drums and stuff, like in Little Mermaid. You know, inventing things, making stuff, right? All the classics. So I guess some of that kind of thing to think about. You know, this could be like a kingdom, so maybe there's like a royal, you know, mer person thing. Maybe some shapes that kind of are, you know, like seaweed or coral shaped. And then I'm thinking about, I will have to think about lighting, because I'm not just going to be able to light this scene. I wonder if they go out for a drink and how it, yeah, like what would be the equivalent, right? Like of going, I mean, probably just going and getting a bite to eat of like, you know, I imagine, so I'm imagining a regular like day of mermaiding, whatever that word is, being a mermaid, just like being a human, you know, just doing your thing. Like you go home, the food that you get is just gonna be like, I'm kind of imagining like hunting. They just go and get the easy pickings, you know, the small fish and the, you know, it's probably light work. They just go and, you know, maybe you probably have veggies, you know, the kelp. They probably eat a lot of kelp food and stuff. They probably have their normal stuff, but there's still probably like restaurants and places, fancier establishments, you know, they'll go to. It's probably not mermaid. I don't know. Yeah, regular day of mermaiding, regular day of humaning. You know, just like they get off of work and they want to go do something or maybe just lounge around. Like what? I'm more wondering what is their lounging around, right? Mermaid gets off of their long day of being a mermaid, long day of working, whatever mermaids do. And then they get home and they have what? I guess like families to raise. There's little kids playing games and stuff and running around. They have to feed them and put them down to bed. And so like I guess there's probably like random mundane chores of like just like doing mermaid stuff. The day in the life of a mermaid. An overworked, underpaid mermaid person. Let's see. That's what our art's gonna be. Overworked, underpaid mermaid. Just exhausted at the end of the day. Wants to do nothing but just lounge around. Doesn't want to leave. This is getting too real. But it is good to think about, I think, because then you can start thinking about, like, what are they doing? Like, what is the equivalent of them playing video games or watching TV, right? Sitting around, chilling, watching YouTube all day. What is doom scrolling? What is the mermaid equivalent of doom scrolling? Like, some sort of underwater fidget spinner that does a thing that's, like, the most depressing painting? No, but I think there's some, it makes it for some good world building, right? Because then you have to start thinking about, like, what does this look like? Like, what is their leisurely activity? I'm trying to think, what is... Like, okay, mermaid isn't hunting, they're not getting food, they're not doing things productive, they're not socializing. What does that look like? What does that mermaid do? What is the video game, the mindless thing that they do? I mean, maybe they're just more social than we are and they don't have these problems. Maybe they just, that is their community, a school of fish, right? They maybe they're more like a herd animal. So maybe they just go home and there's a bunch of stuff happening and there's sports. I imagine they're really into sports, polo, underwater stuff. That's what I imagine mermaids are into. So like they get off their work and just, they were sitting in their office unable to move all day, and they just get home and they just want to, play some water ball, whatever that is, whatever their sport is called. That's what I imagine. I imagine they just want to swim around and have fun. And then they exhaust themselves and they go to bed and rinse and repeat. And that's their, like, even their mundane life is far more exciting than ours. Love it like always. Hey, how's it going, Oblique Painting? We're just talking through mer people. What do they do when they get off work? What is their equivalent of, doom scrolling or watching Netflix or whatever? I hope they don't go fishing. Oh, they probably do. I'm sure they eat smaller fish. Just like we eat smaller animals. Right? All just, higher up in the food chain. But they probably also have lots of seaweed and kelp type things that they eat, different different underwater plants that they munch on. Now, do they cook it? How do they cook? What do they... Maybe this brand of mermaid is very technologically advanced. And they have, like... I mean, electricity and water doesn't mesh very well. But maybe they have some sort of energy source. Some alternate energy. Maybe it is electricity, but they have gadgets. So maybe it's like sci-fi mermaid. They have these gadgets that light up. Here, let me just make a new layer. Maybe they have this glowing lights and stuff. I'm just making shapes. I don't know, just like little machines, little lamps that get lit. Very fine, hope you're doing great. I'm doing really well. I took a day off from streaming, as some of you might have noticed, some of you probably didn't. I always wonder, if I just quit streaming, how long would it be before someone's like, huh, where'd Joe go? Like, is he okay? Like, what happened? Where did he go? I suspect some people would maybe think about it, but I don't know. There's definitely been people that have quit streaming that I've followed, and it kind of, I'll be honest, it's kind of upsetting for me to even say it, but like, sometimes it takes me a while to notice, because like, people do take days off, and then you just expect like, oh, they'll be back, and then you preoccupy yourself until you see them online again, and then you just don't really think about it, and you're like, oh wait, it's been a while, huh? And then it's like, oh wow, that's been like 2 months, and then, yeah. Underwater geyser, maybe that would be fun to paint. Ooh, that would be fun to paint. Yeah, I'm trying to think how to do like I mean, this is looking Japanese here with like a torii gate. I don't think I want Japanese mermaids. For cooking? Oh, for cooking. Oh, true! Underwater geysers could be good for cooking. Maybe something mermaids can do that's equivalent to doom scrolling. Maybe throwing seashells into things like the Gulf Stream and watching it zip along. Ooh, that'd be fun. Yeah, that's true. Mermaids, mermen. Yeah, merfolk is the... I like Magic the Gathering's mer people. They have a lot of, like, mer people with feet. So they're not always, they're not always finned creatures, but they tend to have, like, fins on their arms and their feet, but they're not like the classic merfolk, like, tail of a fish, body of a human. It's not really that. It's more like an underwater alien kind of merpeeps. Yeah, merpeeps. Yep, exactly. Also, art Septual. Hope you're doing well. Okay, let's just keep the pen flowing. Keep making stuff. Howdy, I am... how are you? I'm doing well. Doing well. Took a couple days off of streaming, or 1 day off of streaming, and it was a nice break, kind of. Kind of threw my whole time frame off though, because I'm so used to using stream to judge like what day it is. But no, I'm good. It just doesn't feel like a Thursday. It feels like some other day. But yeah, I'm thinking here, this is gonna be like an underwater, like maybe a sunken city type thing. This is some sort of like underwater place. Streaming is like a cornerstone of the day, evening. For me, it's been such a regular thing that I kind of use it in some ways as like I know if I stream today, then I don't stream tomorrow. And I know if I stream tomorrow, or if I don't stream tomorrow, then I stream the next day, right? And then of course I also work the next day, and then I stream, and then like I use work and stream as like the days. There's like a sequence that I follow, and like that's how I know what day it is, right? I don't look at the calendar and be like it'd be kind of like if you imagine you went to sleep, but like you slept for some more than 1 day, but you didn't know how long, like a temporary coma or something, and you woke up and like you have no sense of what day it is. Like, how do you find out, right? Do you go look at the newspaper? Like, most humans just know what day it is because they have referential things, right? And for me, streaming is one of those referential things. Like looking at a calendar is not going to help you because you aren't going to know what day the calendar's on. Like, I guess looking at your phone because it auto updates. So that's a thing, I guess, if you ever forget which day it is. But most people, I feel like, don't need to be explicitly told what day it is. Like, you might kind of forget, and then you have to like what's the date again or something. But like, I don't know. Most people can figure it out through context clues, I feel like. But yeah, anyway, it threw that whole thing off. So it doesn't feel like the day it is. You know, you wake up and you're like, oh wait, do I have work today? No, not today. That's tomorrow. You know, it's just very weird. But I am doing well, and I think that the break was much needed. Okay, so there's gonna be let's put some characters here. Maybe there's a character here. I do kind of want to avoid the stereotypical just like silhouette of a character or of a mermaid. Just like instead of actually painting the character. So, but maybe I will put a couple silhouettes in here, just random blobs of people. Maybe this one has feet though. I kind of like the idea of footed mermaids, merfolk, merpeople, merpeeps. There's a game that I really like called Dave the Diver. I recently played it during like December, January at time, and they had a village of mer people, and you can visit them. You're not a mermaid. You're just a dude named Dave, but on your adventures you visit a village of mer people, and they have things like seahorse racing. They have gambling, different sort of parlor games. What else do they have? Food, cooking. They have... You can ride a manatee as like a transportation, and so there's that. Yeah, and just like a village of community. There's like kids playing with a ball or a rock or something. It's not a ball of air. It's something that functions like a ball. So yeah, they have ball sports, that kind of thing. So that was kind of fun. Hey Sarah, how's it going? I return after my day not being here. Is it a human-fish combos that live in these spaces? Yeah, so I'm thinking more like the Magic the Gathering flavor of mer people. So let me give you an example. So like this. Oh, you guys can't see that. So like this is an example where these have fins, but they're not strictly mermaids. You also have, let's find some more Magic the Gathering merfolk. Some Magic the Gathering merfolk have feet. So like this character has feet, but they also have like fins, and they're more like underwater aliens. That's how I think of them. It's just like sea people, underwater sea people. They don't have to strictly have tails like a mermaid. They could, but you know, some of them do, some of them don't. I think it might just be random. I don't know how that works. So that's kind of where I'm going with it. It's more underwater people. I wonder if mermaids have a diving suit for going on land. Not diving, but a short. Yeah. I get you. I don't know. I mean, I guess some mermaid lore is right, like in the Little Mermaid, they can go up to the surface, and I think she turns into, I don't know how that works with her. I forgot the story. How did she turn into a human? It was like magic, right? But and then there's different stories. Like there was that Disney movie. What was it called? I want to say Nico, but that's not the name. The Disney movie where the boy is a mermaid, and he can just go on land, right? Isn't it just like if you're out of water, you're a person? If you're in water, you're a fish. And like if you get wet, you automatically turn into a No, not Coco. No, Coco was the. Yeah, I don't know that one. What was the name of that? Anyway, that movie. The movie, I should know the name. But the movie where the boy, if he got wet, he would turn into, like, a fish person. And if he was on land and dry, he would be, like, a human boy. That, to me, is a fun way of doing it. You know, so I don't know if they need underwater suits or above land suits. They could. I think that'd be a fun take on it. Diving suits for above land. That'd be hard to integrate it into, like... Unless you were doing a world in which humans didn't exist, or in which humans and these creatures got along very peacefully, it would be hard to, like, integrate that. Luca, that's the one, thank you. Yeah, Luca, I don't know why that was a hard one for me to think of. I couldn't remember the name. I knew it was a 4-letter word, which is why I was thinking of Nico, but that wasn't. I knew that wasn't right. But yeah, anyway, Luca. So yeah, that one. Like, I like their take on the mermaid. Oh, and like a mer people. I think that's cool. I mean, it's a pretty simple concept, but I think it works well. It makes it easy to integrate of, like, you know, above land and below water kind of vibes. But yeah, Sarah, how are you doing? Hope you're doing well. Maybe there's a seahorse. I like the idea of the seahorse riders, right? I think seahorse rider is fun. So you have the horse. Also, I need to paint some animals. Pretty good working. Nice. Nice. Seahorse. Let me Google seahorse. Like, if these people don't ride seahorses, that is crazy, right? Because seahorses are, you know, horses of the sea. So of course you gotta ride. Like, that would just make sense. Okay, so we're gonna make like just a shape here. A seahorse shape. Although there isn't much room to sit, but I guess you have the saddle on here somehow. I'll exaggerate this pose so that you can have the saddle. There's something like that. I like to think that they don't need, like, bridles. They can just ride them by being friendly with the creatures. There. There. Character riding a seahorse. And basically just like that kind of thing. Here, maybe we'll copy paste this shape. I mean, it doesn't really work to copy paste the shape like that, but that's okay. A master class in selling the silhouette. I mean, I don't know about that. But that is what I'm trying to do, is just make the silhouette read. And then, of course, we can make other shapes. Right, and they don't all need to read well. That's the thing, right? Some of them can read well. Yeah, no, I don't think anything I do is a masterclass. I think you have to be a master for that, right? I think I would never call anything I do a masterclass. I know some people are fine with it. It's cringy to me. Maybe my opinion will change someday when I get good enough. And yeah, maybe there's a big seahorse here. I don't think all of them need super clear silhouettes. I don't know. Because, like, I don't only want to paint seahorses from the side, right? You also want to paint, like, a front-facing seahorse. But yeah, I think just painting in silhouette is definitely a thing that I enjoy doing. But it does make it hard to do other shapes. And maybe there's like a character here. I'm trying to think. Yeah, you can't tell what that one is. Oh, also, why is this song always so dang loud? It's always this one song. There we go. But yeah, no, having silhouettes that read clearly is, I think, it's definitely important. And I think if this is going to be our focal point, it's going to need to be extremely important here. Oh, you're being modest, but there do be people who will learn. Oh, and I think, I think you can always, you know, learn something from everybody, pretty much. And so I guess the opposite, which is you can always teach something to someone. I mean, you know, like, you don't always know what you're going to be teaching someone, but yeah, I think there's always merit to, like I'm not trying to be like, oh, I have nothing to offer to anyone. I mean, I stream, and I'm happy to talk about how I paint things and to share what I know, and, you know, other people can share what they know. Like, I'm, you know, yeah, so obviously I don't think that, like, I think live streaming art has its value both as a viewer and as a streamer, right? I think especially as a viewer, I think live streams have been super huge for me to learn art and, you know, being able to ask questions, and yeah, so it's definitely good. Okay, let me read the rest of your comment. I remember speaking to the art director of Naughty Dog once, and they asked him about how artists view themselves and why they sometimes reject compliments from. He said, "Everyone does it. It's normal. We're always trying to be better, and some people never want to get comfortable." I'm not sure how much that applies. Well, yeah. I mean, I think for me, at least on stream, I think I'm much better at taking compliments when it's finished work and it's in the wild, right? Or not, and by in the wild, I mean, like, if someone, or maybe let's say I shared outside of the context of stream and I wasn't working on a piece, right? I'm not in my process. I'm not working. Or I am, but I'm specifically asking for advice or something. Like, I think if it's a finished piece, I think I'm okay at taking compliments because I'm not working on it. I'm not looking for the mistakes. But when I'm actively trying to solve a problem and be like, ooh, this isn't working, you know, this silhouette is just, you know, not working out. I can't quite get it to look right. What am I doing wrong? Why does this not read well? And then somebody comes along and says, oh, this is so gorgeous. I'm like, it's not, though. I'm clearly trying to work and make it better. You know, it's like, you know what I mean? Like I'm in the mood of problem solving, and for someone to essentially come by and say, this is perfect and it has no problems. You're like, nope, you're wrong. Like, so it's definitely harder for me to take compliments when I'm actively working on something. But once it's out there, I'm happy to, like, if someone says, oh, this is inspiring, I'm like, oh, thank you. I'm happy you think so. Like, yeah, exactly. I'm trying to problem solve the thing they're complimenting. Exactly. It's like, no, I'm going to reject it because I am in my head. Like, I'm not in the, this is ready for you to say nice things. Like this is, it's a separate mode of thinking. Like, I am in find, I am in identify the problem mode, Like, I'm not in let's look for the nice stuff. I mean, sometimes that is valid, though. Wait till you see it fixed. Yeah, exactly, right? It's like, it's hard not to reject a compliment for me when I'm actively painting. Because I'm just in that mode of thinking of, like, finding problem, identify, try to solve it, But I totally get it. It can, we had this conversation previously in stream, and I think for some people, it can almost be like an insult if their compliment is rejected. Like, if I say, oh, I really love what you're painting, or I love the idea, and you say, no, the idea sucks right now, that's like, what does that say about my opinion? Like, does my opinion do I have a bad take? Like, does my taste suck because you thought it wasn't good? You know what I mean? So, like, obviously I that was a bit of an extreme way of stating it, but I think some people can feel like a rejected compliment is like a rejection of their opinion, in the sense that, like, their opinion must be invalid or something. Which I don't view it that way. I've never thought of it that way. But I do want to get better at just, like, taking compliments. But then it feels less genuine when I'm just like, oh, thank you, out of response. But I'm like, I want to genuinely feel gratitude. I don't just want to say the empty words. You know what I mean? Like it does make me happy when people appreciate, something that I make or something that I'm saying or whatever. But it also, I don't know. It's tricky. It's a weird thing. I remember. Let's see. Sarah says, I remember one time my grandma said she liked how my hair looked that day, and all I said back was, actually, I'm not a huge fan of it. I need to get it cut. And she was really offended. Yeah, and, like, I think sometimes it makes it feel like they liked it, and their taste and their opinion of something, like, oh, what a cute shirt you're wearing, and it's like, oh no, this thing's ugly. It's like, you just called their opinions ugly, right? Like, this is, imagine you're going shopping with someone, and you turn to them and say, the thing you're wearing is ugly. Like, is that not the same? Like, if they're wearing stuff that they like, and then they're complimenting to you what they like, and you reject that opinion, like, it's very similar to basically just telling them that their taste sucks. And, like, I'm not, like, I would never intend, it's your own hair, fair, but she's still stating something about her opinion. It's not about you, right? In some way, somebody described this to me, because I struggle with this, Sarah, but somebody described this to me as, like, when someone compliments you, it's not about you. It's about them. They're just stating their opinion, and they're saying that they like it. And that's not for you to say, oh, I don't like it. It's just, oh, I'm happy you like, right? Like, it's like someone saying, I really liked Star Wars, and then you saying, it's a terrible movie, you shouldn't like it, right? Like, it's no different than them just stating their opinion about something. Oh, I really like Star Wars. I really like your painting, right? It's not about your painting. I mean, it is, kind of, because that's the subject, but, like, it's about their interests. And by you saying no, basically, and I struggle with this. I still do it. I still reject compliments, especially if I'm working on something that I'm actively trying to fix. But this is an ongoing problem for me. Like, I've probably insulted hundreds of people because I've rejected their compliments when they thought they were just sharing something they liked, and they were, trying to be nice. Like, I feel like compliments are like a double-edged sword, right? Or not double-edged, but, like, they're two birds, one stone, right? Like, if I compliment you, I am both, well, one, I am sharing my opinion about something I like, right? This is my taste. I find this thing that you're doing to, you know, satisfy my taste. But also, it's like trying to be nice to you, right? Like, or it's trying to be flattering or whatever the, not flattering, what's the word? Like, it is also about you because I felt like, you know, maybe it would make you happy to know that, right? And so, like, I think that expectation is what makes people get offended, is because they expect that you should be happy and then you aren't happy with the thing, and it's like, well, I was saying it to make you feel good and then you didn't, you know, so it's like they feel offended, which I think that's wrong on them. But yeah, I struggle with compliments. That's what I'm trying to get at. Oh, thanks for the rant screen. Now that the rant's screen up, I can get back to painting. I almost need to find a way so I don't know. It needs to be on a timer so that when the rant screen pops up, I can just keep on ranting. And then it will go back to normal after a while. That way I can be hands off. I think you can reject a compliment without seeming... Well, no, it's not about being unhappy, but it's like... I think from the perspective of the person giving the compliment, they're getting two things out of it, right? One, they're just sharing their taste, and if you accidentally reject the compliment, you might, in some way, reject their taste, which can maybe hurt. But also, there's like the, you know, like there's an expectation sometimes that you're gonna be happy or like accept it, and if it's not accepted, it can feel like you let down their expectations also. I don't think that second point has as much credence, and I think people just need to get over themselves if they're offended that you know, don't share their opinion. But I do get the first point of like making it feel like their opinion is invalidated because you know, rejected their compliment on accident. And I don't mean just like flat out like being a jerk about it. I just mean like literally just like almost like being like somebody's like, oh, you know, I really like that. You're like, oh no, no. Like even modesty can be like a rejection of a compliment. Right? Like, oh, I love what you did with your hair. Oh, this hair, nah. This is, you know, I didn't do anything to this today. You know, and then it can make it feel like, okay, well, I guess I just like boring old, you know, lack of effort or something. Like, you know, it can make someone maybe feel something. And I think that one is valid, kind of. I don't know. I need to just remember that compliments aren't about me and they're about the person, and just be like, oh, I'm glad you like it. And like, I'm glad this is what your taste is. You know, like, I'm happy you find this appealing. Because yeah, it's definitely a struggle, kind of. Especially when when I'm working on something, I am so bad at this. It's also, on stream, this happens a few times, and I think I've brought this up before, but whenever somebody compliments something about a painting, it's often will bring my attention to it, and because I'm in that cycle of, like, analyze, critique, you know, figure out what the problem is and fix it, when you bring my attention to something, you are plunking me down in the, like, the figure out what's wrong with it stage, right? Like, or do I like it, right? You plunk me down in the middle of this sort of like analytical stage. Oh, thanks for the hydrate. And so if somebody says, oh, I love those colors, my thought is, do I like these colors? And if the answer is no, then I immediately change them. And so you say, I like those colors, and then Joe changes those colors. And so this happens a lot, where someone will say they like something, and then I immediately change it. Because you've just brought my attention to it, and I'm in the middle of working on my painting. So that's a common thing, and I apologize to anyone in the past who I have offended on accident because I clearly didn't like the thing that you brought my attention to. What if I say I hate those colors? I don't think I would I mean, my immediate response would be like, well, sucks for you, it's my painting. And then my second response would be, probably at like the same time I'm saying those words, I would be like, do I like these? I'd be like, yeah, I agree with you. Or, nah, I don't agree with you, you know. Too bad. Right? So, like, I don't think I would care. Not too much. I mean, I think even the most mean-spirited critiques, sometimes there's, like, a kernel of truth in there. Sometimes there's not. And sometimes you just, like, sometimes I think that's where, you know, especially online, it's up to us to basically say, is there anything valid to this? This is something I want to ignore, right? And if it is something you want to ignore, then you can ignore it, and you can be like, well, too bad, your opinion is trash, and, you know, you might think my painting's garbage, but I like it, so that's what makes me happy, so I don't really care about your opinion. And from then on, I will stop valuing your opinion on my art, because, you know, you've clearly shown that you aren't someone who I care to listen to. But on the other hand, you might say something, like if it's a genuine critique, and you say something like, ooh, this looks off to me. I'm not going to be like, well, sucks for you. I'll be like, huh, does it look off, right? So I will consider even the most mean-spirited thing, but I'm not going to assume that the person is right. I'm just going to try to judge it as objectively as I can and be like, do I think this take, even if it's said in the most mean-spirited way, does it have any value to be gained? So that's kind of how I do it. I try to read into what the person says a little bit. I feel like I'm pretty okay at people saying mean things. I'm very much like a hey, Eric Malachi, how's it going? Like, online, I think of myself as, like, very, like tit for tat kind of thing. Like, I will be nice by default, and I will be very thankful and welcoming, and I will listen to everybody equally, but the second you show yourself to be someone who has mean intentions, I don't have to abide by the rules I was following. Now I can make fun of you, I can reject your opinion, I don't value your opinion if you're going to be someone who is purposely trying to hurt others. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't go, like, I'm not going to be hurt by, like, I can always think of online compliments or insults as, like, a random person across the street shouting stuff at me, right? If someone's like, hey man, I really like your shirt, I'll be like, oh, thank you, you know? But if they're like, you're stupid, I'm like, okay, you're like a drunk dude on the side of the street. Like, why do I care what you're saying? You know, like, why do I care what he said? I don't. He's just a rando, right? But so I kind of, like, the default is that I will take their compliment or whatever, and I'll be thankful for it. But if you're just gonna be like a random person, I think this is obviously different when it's like an art hero or something. If an art hero turns out to be like a jerk, and you do value their opinion, that's a hard one to flip. I've luckily never had that happen, where someone that I really do respect their opinion, like, attacks me. That would be harder to deal with. But yeah, I think in general, if it's just like random people online, I don't mind random insults. Obviously on stream I can just ban you too, so that's I get some joy out of that. I had a little bit of joy out of banning people, if I'm being honest. Alfred says, but if you would compliment another artwork, it's not only taste, but also your expertise, right? I think there's a wait. No, I don't think so. I mean, depends. No, I don't think so. I think, because you don't know where I'm coming from when I say I like something. In fact, most of the time when I say I like stuff, it's with the context of who made it, right? Let's say your 6-year-old niece made a painting, and you're like, oh, I love this. Do you really love it? Would you put it on your wall? Well, probably not. But you love it in the sense that you like that they made it. You love that they are happy to share it with you. You can be enthusiastic about young people making art, right? Like, I am over the moon if a young person wanted to share something that they're proud of. that does genuinely make me happy, and I can find joy in what they made. I can be like, oh, I love, you had so many ideas, or I love all the different colors and the different marks you make on the page. Like there can be genuine compliment there. It's not a lie. It's not like I'm holding it to my standards. And so you, as let's say I say the same to you, you share art, and I'm like, oh, I really love what you're doing with this character design. It doesn't mean I think it's a master class of character design. I found something that I admire in it, and that can be a genuine compliment. So I don't think my experience matters when you take a compliment from me, because you don't know where I'm coming from, right? I'm not necessarily injecting my understanding of art into that. I'm just complimenting something, again, for some unknown reason to you, and it might be to like, and this is where I think compliments can be tricky and they can hurt you, is like if you're saying it for reasons other than you genuinely like it or something, and someone turns, I don't know, I don't know why you would do that, but let's see. I mean, in terms of technical experience perspective, yeah, but that's the thing. I'm not always complimenting your. Let's say you share art with me and I compliment it. I'm not always complimenting those things. Just because a piece has some issues, like maybe your painting has some subtle perspective issues that I notice, it doesn't mean that I don't love the thing that you made, right? I'm not always in critique mode when I give a compliment. It's not like, little kid shows a painting and you're like, well, let me tell you about your perspective and bad composition. There's no story when, like, or you have a story, but I can't tell what it is. And your colors are all over the place. Bad color theory. Your scale is all wrong. You don't tell a kid that. Like, it's not even on my mind, Or, like, it doesn't have to be a kid, but, like, it just depends. It's not... Like, I think compliments are weird because you don't know that the reason the person's complimenting. Yeah, a compliment's different to a critique, right? Sometimes it's just, I like it. And again, you don't know why I like it. I might like it because it reminds me of my childhood drawings. I might like it because it's truly a masterful painting. Totally different. Quite literally the opposites, right? One, I might like it because it reminds me of my literal worst paintings ever. Or like, of the joy of just like not caring. Or it might be the best thing I've ever seen. And you have no idea when I say I like the painting. Now, if you were then to say, what do you like about it? Right, and put me on the spot, well, then I could explain myself, hopefully. And I feel like I'm pretty good at finding things that I like in paintings, right? This is why I like it when people share art with me. I genuinely love when people are sharing things they're making, because I like people making stuff. And I can celebrate the act and the process of making. It doesn't have to be about the outcome. But it can also be like, a lot of people have really cool ideas. And maybe their execution isn't that amazing, but the idea's cool. Sometimes I don't care for the idea at all, but the execution's really well done. Or sometimes just the color is really cool, and it makes me want to paint with a certain color palette. But I don't like the subject matter, and the execution's good, or maybe the execution's not good. I don't know, it doesn't matter. Like, I think sometimes we try to, and this is where, kind of going back to the earlier topic, this is where I think you just kind of have to say, like, thank you. And, like, because you can't, it's tricky. A compliment by itself means very little, but if a compliment is followed by an objective observation, then it carries a weight you can assess. Yeah, exactly. Both in terms of compliment's validity, scope for uptake, rejection, and reflection of the person's complimenting you. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely times where people will say something, and I this is gonna make me sound like a terrible person, but I'll lose a little bit of respect for them, because I'm like, I don't think you have very good taste. I know it's terrible, but like, someone will say something, and I so strongly disagree with it, that I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna listen to your art advice in the future. Like, someone will make like, you know, I'll be I'm just gonna make up an example because I can't think of a real one. I can just think of the like my feeling after those times. But, like, let's say I'm painting with something with the worst values, you know, the thing is nearly unreadable or something, and someone's like, "Oh, I love the values," and like you're painting with, you know, such a good value work. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, do you even know what that word means? You know, like, what are you saying? Like, this is unreadable, right? Like, if everything is the same value and someone talks about how great, you know, like, I'm like, what do you, like, there's a little part of me that's like, I'm not sure. So yeah, no, I totally get it. There is a slight reflection, right? And that's the thing. This is why you shouldn't reject compliments, right? It's because how do I word it? Like, they are sharing something about themselves in the compliment, right? They're sharing a piece of them. They're saying, I like this. This is something I appreciate. And when you're saying, no, 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 your taste, that's why I think it can feel a little upsetting. Anyway. I can't believe when I Google RAM, all the results are the truck and not the animal. I would have expected it to be the computer part. I guess for that you probably need all caps. That is upsetting though, Sarah. It reminds me of the movie. I rewatched it recently. I actually enjoy it, even though I don't like the Beatles. It's called Yesterday. It's like the fantasy biopic of the Beatles, where a guy basically wakes up and the world doesn't, like, he's basically in like a parallel universe or alternate timeline where like the world doesn't know who the Beatles is, and also a lot of random other stuff. So, like, you know, he'll go on Google and Google the Beatles, and it just pops up the insect. And then later in the movie, he asks for like a Coke when he's on a plane. They look at him like he's crazy, and then he realizes, he Googles Coke, and Pablo Escobar pops up, and it's like, because Coca-Cola doesn't exist in this universe. It's funny, like, yeah, just the way Google search the results are, they assume they know what you mean. So yeah, if you Google RAM and it pops up a truck, it's very disappointing. Same thing with like Eagles. If you Google Eagles, it'll be the baseball team or whatever the Eagles are. Football team? I don't know. A lot of animals, you know, dolphin, and then it'll show like a sports player. I'm like, no, stop sharing sports people with me. I want an image of a dolphin. And then yeah. Never heard of this movie. It's actually, it's kind of, I like it. It's fun. It's probably not the highest rated movie ever, but it's you know, it's not a masterful work, but it's fun. I see enough Eagles merch here. Oh yeah, you're Philly, right? I forgot. I didn't actually know where they. I mean, I kind of knew where they were from because I just said it, but like I didn't register it when I say it. To me, it's just a name of a sports team. I don't even know what they play. I assume it's football, but I don't actually know. I think football. You think? Okay. I'm glad you don't know either, because it makes me... I mean, not really. I'm not glad you don't know, but it's funny that you don't know, because you are much closer to that than I am. In my town, which is a fairly small town of Walla Walla, it's we have a baseball team, and they're named after an onion. They're called the Sweets, because we have what's called Walla Walla Sweet Onions. It feels weird for me to say my hometown because it's kind of like a small town, and so it feels like I'm doxing myself kind of, but it's like if I were to say like I'm from Seattle, like is that any like okay, great. A lot of people live in Seattle, you know? Um but yeah. Maybe here this person is swimming. So maybe there's some people swimming. Yeah, I do know, but also I always second guess myself because I have no idea that the gritty mascot was for a hockey team. The gritty, wait, what is the gritty mascot? I don't know what that is. I've never heard of that. The Eagles football, because I remember rooting for them to lose the Super Bowl so people would be less crazy. They'd be crazy either way, though. That's funny, actually. You know what? I've never considered that, but that's actually a good point. I bet you they go way more insane when they're winning, right? It's like all the crazy partying. There's probably like more deaths and like more like bad accidents after like a sports team wins, right? I bet you there's public data for that. You could probably look after like big like sporting events in various cities and see who the city that was playing like the home team and see like take the data of like hospital reports for that night or maybe the following day based on whether and then compare them to like whether they won or lost and then do that for like a bunch of different cities and I bet you could find that like I would not surprise me that if like the when the home team wins people have more accidents because they get more drunk, they get more like more partying, right, more craziness, and therefore more danger, right? It wouldn't surprise me. I could be wrong. Maybe it'd be opposite. I have no idea. But that'd be interesting. I should email that idea to there's a podcast called I don't know what it's called. Something MD. It's like a psychology and medical or and data science and medical overlap. Not psychology. It's what's the word? Um Economics. So it's like an economics overlap with medical. So a lot of just like data science taking finding weird trends and trying to understand the like the the factors that contributed to a particular like thing in the data, which I think it's fun. Okay, let's change that scene because I was ranting for so long. Little silhouettes here. Are you aware of what Eagles fans do? They are crazy. No, but I know sporting fans in general are crazy. Like they can get violent. They can get just super rowdy. I know in like there was like the whole thing of like footballers in like the UK. So not football as in like American football, but they had like the whole like the hooligan things, which is like basically gangs, kind of, sort of, but like super hardcore fans and like it's a kind of intense as far as my understanding. I don't know if it's still a thing, probably. Um, but yeah, like that's the fans get insane. Yeah, sporting fans are no joke. They terrify me. And yeah, that's why I hadn't really considered what you said before. And it sort of is a shock because it's like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense that you would have like you would want your home team to lose because if you're somewhere living in that neighborhood, there's like a real risk of like riots and stuff and like people going insane. It's crazy that that's like actually a thought that could happen, but it feels like it's very much a thing that could happen. Before I moved here, the only news I heard of Philly was about how crazy sports fan climbing fence poles and setting fires. That's the only thing you knew, and you're like, I'm moving there. The one piece of information you had about Philly that made you and that was it, and that's why I'm going there. That's where I'm going. You wanted to join in the craziness. I see how it is. No. Obviously, I'm kidding. Sarah's like, I want in on that action. Well, I mean, long before I looked into places to live. Gotcha. You looking at Philly later? Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know anything about Philly. Other than cheesesteaks. And there's a cheese brand named after them, which is a cream cheese brand. Which I doubt it has any relation. Yeah, I don't know anything about Philly. I don't know anything about most cities, to be honest. It's funny, just the other day when I was getting the work done in my apartment, which is one of the reasons I had to cancel stream, as they were changing out some of like my AC and some other things, one of the people asked just a random, I don't know if it's because like they saw something on my shelf from like another country or something, but they asked what's the furthest I have ever traveled, just randomly out of the blue, and I'm like, oh, Austria. And then I had to think, I'm like, wait, actually maybe it was Japan, because like those are the two places I've ever been. And both of the people doing the work in my apartment, both were like, they had never left the US, which isn't that rare, but they were much more traveled in the US than I am. I haven't traveled in the US hardly at all. I've never been out of like Oregon, Idaho, and Washington. I've just stayed in the Pacific Northwest all my life. I've been, technically to Canada, and then I've been on a plane out of the US, but outside of like my little region, I haven't traveled very far. So yeah, I don't know a lot. I feel like I'm very not well traveled at all. Trying to make a seahorse shape. I realize I need the... There was that image that I saw recently. Sarah, maybe you know who I'm talking about. There's this artist. I saw them on Instagram and I followed them, but I don't know their name, so I don't know how to look them up. But they take a lot of photos of like animals being cute, like two squirrels smush their heads together, or like a group of otters and like the babies on the back of the otter, and then they'll do a sketch of like humans in the poses kind of the animals, or like the colors of these birds, and they turn them into like three old ladies and of different birds, but they don't look like birds, they look like people, but their character designs based on the photos of like animals being cute, basically, or not just animals being cute, but just animals in general. Do you know who I'm talking about? I feel like you might. But anyway, where was I going with this? Oh yes, there was a picture of like animals and like on their backs, giving them like a like holding a bunch of their animals. I don't remember what the animal was. And then they did like a scene with like the children sort of like climbing over the mother or whatever, and it was like like leaning over her shoulder. You follow so few people who draw characters. Okay. It was very cool, and it made me think of that. I'm like, what if there was like a baby in a pack, like, you know, wrapped up on the you know, holding on to this character, like a sea baby holding on to its parent as this parent is riding the seahorse. I don't know the name. That's why I was asking, because you seem to be better at artist names than I am. But it was really cute, and their character designs are really cool, and I feel like you'd like them. Let me see if I can find them. I actually want to... If anybody knows who I'm talking about, let me know. I don't even know how to search Instagram, because, like, I guess I don't think I favorited it. Is there a way to find things that I've liked? Profile. View archive? No. How can I find the stuff that I've liked? It's buried under activity. You have to... In settings? Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there is a way. It's in settings. More. Settings. Account, privacy, sharing and reuse, comments, tagged and mentions. Blocked account. I don't see it. I feel like it should be on my home page. Probably not. It's probably just going to give me a bunch of crap. It's not this person, is it? No. Yeah, I don't even know how to find it. It's under settings, your activity, likes. Okay, I'm on PC and I'm on web. I'm in browser, so I wonder if this will still be here. More settings. Oh wait, oh there it is. More settings, your activity, likes. Okay. Let me see if I can find it, because I'm sure I've liked it. Now the question is, am I going to recognize whatever piece that I did like? I feel like I'm missing some. Maybe I didn't like them. This person? No. Dang it, I don't know where it is. Anyway, I can't find it, but it's really cool. Hey, Cheese, how's it going? Cheese A1 says, hi, Jay Stiller, how are you? So beautiful painting. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Sorry, I was browsing my Insta. I was trying to find an artist that I really liked. They did some cool character designs based on, like, animal sketches or animal photos, and then they turned them into humans and character designs. But I hope you're doing well. Yeah, I found it, Sarah, but I couldn't find the artist, so maybe I didn't like it. I don't know. I'm always bad at remembering to click the like button. But yeah, I hope you're doing well, Cheese. Okay, let's sketch some shapes. Just Fiction says, I think you can only look at things you saved, not liked. Oh no, you can, Fiction. which you probably have realized now because we were talking about. But yeah, it is in there. It's just hidden in the settings. And I only knew that because Sarah has mentioned it before. She's much better at social media than I am. I kind of like these shapes to be chunky and almost feel like big old like ruins of places. Like big old shapes. And maybe they're slightly... I'm just making shapes now. Maybe some foreground stuff. But yeah, what I'm doing right now is just kind of sketching. Trying to think of an underwater scene. Right now there's not a whole lot going on though. I don't have it like a concept or any idea in my head. I'm just kind of going with the flow, sketching out ideas and seeing what I can do. Like, maybe I should just talk through it though. Like, you know, this looks like a younger person, like a young boy or something. Maybe they're playing a sport, and they're like in Final Fantasy X, Blitzball. So maybe there's like a ball here. And then this person is... Maybe this one has a fishtail. Maybe there's like fishtail and then feet people. They're playing sports. That's kind of fun. Now this obviously is in a weird spot, but I kind of like the idea of them playing sports, underwater sports. I'm not a big sports person, but I think, you know, having activities that people do together is always good. You know, it's good, healthy fun. And I guess I do like competitive video games, so that's kind of like sports. I mean, it's essentially, you know, minus the healthy fun, but it is it is fun. I don't know about healthy. It's not physical, that's for sure. Although maybe some sports or some esports, I don't know. Okay, this seahorse thing is just not needing to be here. Just kind of making little shapes. Little blobs. Just Dance, that's a good one. True. Yeah, there are games. Yeah, Just Dance, DDR, any of those kind of like, yeah, Dance Dance Revolution type games. I think Just Dance is newer, right? Than DDR. I'm probably aging myself by saying DDR. Yeah, all the dance games are great. I haven't played a lot of them, but I did play a bunch of DDR in my youth. Those were good games. Exercise and fun, yeah. And like and some of them are quite skill building. Like they're quite difficult, and you improve at them, and it's fun. That stuff's always good. Okay, I think we're gonna get rid of the seahorse person. Although before I do that, I'm gonna copy and paste it just because I kind of like it. And there's something about it that's not bad, so I'll just stick it over there. That way I can just paint over this. Because I kind of like the idea, now that this is sports, what if there's, like, bleachers? And, like, people watching. You know, we'll get some storytelling going on. There's bleachers with people on the bleachers watching. however bleachers look. Obviously, it doesn't have to actually be bleachers. It could just be any sort of stair-steppy thing. And maybe down here there's like a court of some sort. Maybe over here there's another set of bleachers. Yeah, like a mini stadium, or like a mini sports ball arena where people are playing sports. Most of them are sitting. But then there's a little arena. And maybe there's, I don't know, hoops. I feel like there should be hoops. They're playing Quidditch. Or blitzball, I guess. I don't know. Maybe there's hoops. Maybe not. Maybe there's no hoops. Maybe it's something like... Maybe it's like keepy-uppies or whatever the term is. Where you're just trying to keep the ball off the ground, and so you have to, like, they're trying to hit it downward, and then... Maybe the other person has to, like, swim down and hit it back up, and then it sinks, and they have to hit it, like... I don't know. I don't know how that would work. But, like, I feel like if you can move up and down, right? Unlike in real life, you could... You wouldn't be restricted by don't let it touch the ground. Like, maybe it's a... I don't know. Quidditch with pufferfish? I don't like the idea of them playing with the fish. I mean, we could have a pufferfish. That seems dangerous. That's like hot potato. That seems like a school kid activity where you take a pufferfish and you toss it, and whoever gets puffed on, or whatever the term is, loses. That sounds dangerous. But maybe if you're a mermaid or a merperson, maybe getting stung by a pufferfish wouldn't be harmful. But honestly, I feel like if you were like a teenage mermaid, there would be all sorts of like stupid, rowdy games that you would play, because that's what teenagers tend to do is I mean, not all teenagers, but there are obviously teenagers are known to play some very stupid and reckless games. I mean, I remember, like, playing wall ball, which is not, like, that stupid or reckless. But basically, if you missed the ball, or, like, caught it and it dropped it or something, you would have to stand against the wall, and the person would throw the ball at you as hard as they possibly could. How it, like... Also, why is my nose itching? Like, that is kind of stupid. Like, it's very dumb. But, you know what? That's what kids do, so... Or generally, that's... I mean, I'm not saying kids will be kids, but kids do tend to be stupid, and obviously you shouldn't necessarily allow them to be that stupid, but you get what I'm saying. It is kind of like... Yeah, it's like it was a thing we did. Like, I mean, it was, you know, we weren't like... I don't think anybody wanted to hurt the other person. We would stand back far enough that, like, we could easily miss. But yeah, you would take, like, a... It was like a rubber bouncy, a hard, not hard rubber, but kind of like a rubber, like a handball kind of material. So it was like hardish rubber, but it was hollow in the middle. Or a tennis ball. I think we also use tennis balls. But yeah, you just stand back from the wall and just, like, throw it as hard as you can at the person. You try to hit them. And of course, you know, we were a bunch of little kids and we didn't know how to throw very hard or very accurately, so most of the time you would be fine. As long as you just, like, closed your eyes and, you know, covered any parts of you didn't want to hit, then you'd be good. Kind of stupid in hindsight. And not even in hindsight. Even when we were doing it, we knew it was stupid, but, you know. Such is the way. I would
play it with a rubber ball like you would describing would not try it with a tennis ball. Well, I mean, tennis balls are also rubber and hollow in the middle. Not like we weren't using wiffle balls, if that's what you mean. Not a wiffle ball, like the hard rubber, like a tennis ball. Tennis balls are pretty hard. Tennis balls might be a little harder. But yeah, either way, you could get hurt. We also did the same... I don't know what it was with kids throwing things at each other, but we also did this with hacky sack, where you would try to keep the hacky sack off the ground and like pass it back and forth. And if you were the one who missed it, somebody else could grab it and then throw it at you. And you'd have... The second you dropped it, you'd have to take off running because they would pick it up and then they had to throw it from where they were standing. And then you could like try to jump and, you know, contort yourself so that you would like try to dodge it and try to not get hit. And it didn't like hurt, but if they hit you, you would then be out and you would go in the circle until the last person standing. So basically, if you were good at hacky sack, you could just not lose. But if you were bad, then you would have to, you know, hopefully dodge being hit really hard with the hacky sack. So kind of silly, but again, kids liking to throw things at each other, so. Okay, I kind of like this scene, but it's not doing it for me. Let's change things. Let's take this scene, copy and paste it, stick it over here. And then we're gonna blow it up. What if I just go like this and go enhance? Enhance. The point of impact for these forever, whether true. Random, but what's the name of that one artist who has a frog wizard avatar? Oof, I don't know. Do I know? I feel like I... Sounds familiar. I might... I don't know. I don't know who that is by name. I probably would if I... No, I mean... I'm sure I would recognize if I saw it. These people will be sitting... Okay, let's sketch this. I like this scene. Okay, I think this is gonna be... So you're drawing something that I worry my subconscious is too similar to Avatar, but I don't really remember it that well. You know what's funny? Every time I think that, I am shocked at how wrong I am for thinking it was similar. I remember I had this thought that like, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a scene that's too similar to something I've seen before, and it was this image of like looking down, or yeah, looking down at a place, and it was like the circle thing, and there was like, it was like a shrine, and this shrine had like little arches, and these arches was like lit, and there was like a bunch of people. And then I went and found the scene, and it turns out it wasn't from above looking down. It wasn't even at all the same shape. It was a completely different setting than I remembered. It wasn't at night, it was during day. It was a slightly dark painting. Every single thing about the image was different than I remembered, and it was nothing similar. And it was like, wow, my memory sucks. And it was just I find myself doing this more and not more and more. That makes it sound like I'm losing my mental capabilities. But no, like I find myself more aware, I think, of just how like fallible our memory is, and we remember vibes, and we remember, you know, certain things. And of course, I think I do in some ways get better at remembering paintings because I have a better language for it. And so I can kind of like, you know, chunk them together in my memory and recall the information better. But it's always, it's kind of a shock at just how bad we are at recalling exact things. And so, yeah, every time I find myself thinking that this must, am I accidentally copying something that I saw 2 weeks ago or a month ago? I'm probably okay. Like, historically, I've been nowhere near similar to what I think I am doing. So yeah, I'm gonna paint this. Some sports ball players, underwater, mermaid people, playing games. Hello, Druffzilla. How's it going? But yeah, I guess it's possible that you're getting too close for that. It would be good to find it. But yeah, no, I don't know a frog wizard. I'm not sure who that is. I feel like it's familiar. This looks like the Final Fantasy X board. You know what? I already mentioned that today. Yeah, Blitzball. It's a great... Blitzball was awesome. No, this is not Blitzball, though. Okay, let's paint some people in here. So maybe these people have... There, let me find some references. Wait, what's... What is this? Oh. I'm trying to find, like, how other artists do color underwater. Guess we can definitely have some dark, deep reds. Maybe these are a coral color. So maybe we do, like, deep, dark reds underwater for the people. I'm just kind of putting blobs here. I'm basically going to start with just blobs, and I'm going to work up. And then from here, these can be more desaturated because I want them to blend in. You'll have some fans over here. Maybe some greens. Again, I'm not trying to... Now, do I want light? How do I want to do lighting over here? That's another question I need to answer. Alfred says, I'm heading off. Have a good rest of your stream. Thanks, Alfred. Take care. Have a good rest of your day. Thanks for popping in. Good to see you. You changed the mouth. You think that's what was looking similar, if I remember correct. Gotcha. Well, if you do ever find it, do me a favor and actually compare and see and, like, try to remember... And try to, like, check yourself on that, because I'm very curious. I would not be surprised if you, like, if you're thinking it's very close and you look at it like, oh no, I'm okay. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Or maybe you're just better at remembering things than I am, and you are, like, super on point. You know one that has a frog knight? Oh, do you know who it is? You should link them. Maybe it's the one Sarah's thinking of. I know of some, like, it rings a bell, but I couldn't tell you who it is. Okay, so this is like a sports place. How do we want to do it with the colors? I think what I'm going to do is go a little bit... I'm going to use an airbrush here. Because I do want to bring in some lighter color. Like, I gotta be careful to not just go too dark. Inkwell. Oh, Inkwell. I know Inkwell. Yeah. True. You know what? It's funny that you mentioned Inkwell because I feel like he uses a color palette that you tend to like, right? Like an orange and teal kind of vibe. I feel like his color palette. He has a yeah, his colors. Yeah, his colors are good. You can definitely tell, like, the color combos that he's drawn to. I rarely see his work. Yeah, I only see his work on YouTube, to be honest. Because, like, sometimes I'll watch a video of his. Although, I'll be honest, I don't love his videos. they're kind of like, at least he makes art, but I also feel like I never see his actual art. I see his content about art, which is kind of, I mean, it's the whole thing, right? But like, in some way, freelance business has become a big part of his content, of like being an artist, of like, I'll make content about being an artist, and then you end up knowing them for talking about being an artist and not for doing art. Which I think is fine. I don't, you know, I don't dislike that or anything. And obviously, I think it's good that there are people who do talk about those. But I always do have to be a little careful because, like, you know, like, it's nice to know that he at least still does make art, right? And like, oh, here are things that he's working on, and he does keep up to date, and he does seemingly still... I'm not throwing shade. Hey, Casey. I'm not throwing shade. And in fact, I probably do this some too, right? Like, I'll talk about things more than, like, you know, like, because I have opinions on topics, even if I'm not, like, actively doing a thing. Because I am around, you know, like I can have opinions on streaming without being the biggest streamer or whatever. Like, I don't need to, you know. So, but yeah, no, it's, but it is a thing, and I think it is something, especially if you're in the self-learning environment, right? You should always be a little bit aware of, like, you know, what does the person actually do? Are they just selling courses, or do they actually make art? And if they do make art, like, make sure they're still making art, and they're not just, like, I don't know. It's nice to know that the people are actually doing the thing they're talking about. And Inkwell does seem to be doing that. Like, he has great art. His art is super cool. Yeah, you know me. Just stirring up trouble. No, this is like, I feel like I'm pretty chill in that regard. I don't think I do that. Sarah says, so long story short, I have to design a gnome, but an animalistic one, not a human face, and I thought a frog would be cute. But so basically I was drawing a frog with a pointy hat, and that's what Inkwell's character is. Gotcha. A frog with a pointy hat reminds me of, have you seen Over the Garden Wall? Which isn't actually a frog, but Greg. Greg, it looks like a gnome with a pointy hat. But yeah, I am doing a mermaid painting, some characters playing sports ball of some sort underwater. Not Greg. Wirt. Wait. Who's Wirt and who's Greg? Am I confused? But anyway, these characters. Oh, there's a frog. Yeah, there's a frog. Greg looks like a little boy with a... Yeah, sorry, Wirt. I meant Wirt. Anyway, he has the pointy hat, and there's... Like, my brain... I don't know why... Yeah, okay, Wirt has a point. I always get them confused. Yeah, I love Over the Garden. Okay, yeah. They're great. They're two... But yeah, it's a great show. You guys should totally see it if you haven't. Oh, you can't see. Anyway, here. But yeah, he has the pointy hat. And there's a frog and a teapot. But yeah, when you said gnome, he looks like a gnome. He reminds me of a gnome. Gnome with a pointy hat. It's definitely a thing. I'm thinking of getting into YouTube and afraid of falling into the content creation trap that you are talking about. But it's frustrating that it feels like the main way to achieve stability. I mean, I think it's fine to share your opinions and stuff. I think as long as you're also still making art. I think when your time is being preoccupied with talking about making art, then it is definitely like that's the content trap, right? I don't know. I think Inkwell does a good job because he at least he still goes to conventions and he's still selling stuff. And he'll do like selling recaps and stuff. And I don't know. I feel like he teeters the line. Is teeter the right word? He toes the line of like he's right on the edge for me of like making art and selling art and talking about selling. Like he obviously makes income from his, you know, from talking about it. But also, he seems to make income from doing art also. So he's not purely in the content thing. So it is weird. It's a weird thing. But also, Casey, you totally should do YouTube. But yes, I'm trying to do a crowd of people. Painting a crowd of people. Very small crowd. And I'm trying to build up the colors slowly. But before I get too far, what if I just go heavy-handed here? Put little fish colors. Your first exposure to Over the Garden Wall was an AMV of it featuring a song Long Way Down. That's what made me watch it. It's great. Yeah, Over the Garden Wall is amazing. I watch it pretty much every October. I will work on, like, start defining things here in a bit. Funny you mentioned Inkwell, though, because this painting is actually going to end up turning, I think, into a similar color palette, where, like, you have the orange and the blues and all that. I could very easily see this being similar. Maybe not super similar, but, like, a little bit. Although, again, I'm probably remembering it so poorly. Although, you know what? By the way, I did some character sketches, some gestures, which I'm not proud of, but I did some. I'm proud that I did them, but they're not super great. Although I do like that one. But yeah, I did some mermaid sketching yesterday, and now I'm gonna do some characters. Try to think about how these people might be playing sports. These are good, dude. Thanks. They're okay. We're just not. Thanks. I appreciate the. See, okay, you know what? We were talking about compliments earlier. I think, and we were talking about not rejecting compliments. I think that's the type of compliment I have a hard time not rejecting, because you're not saying I like these. You're saying these are good, and it feels like a statement of fact. Of like, this is the truth. These are good, objectively. And I know it's like an opinion, and good is subjective, but it doesn't... To my brain, when I hear someone say these are good, I'm thinking, are they though? You know? Objective truth. It feels like a statement of, like, this is good. Rather than like, ooh, I really like this. Right? And I would never be like, no, you don't. You know? Like, no, of course, if you say you like it, you like it. And I'm like, oh, thank you. I'm glad you like it. But it's always compliments about the art. Like, this is, you know, like, these colors are so perfect. And I'm like, no, they're not. The line quality, attention to gravity, movement has that. Well, I'm glad you liked it. I'm bad at taking compliments. Maybe someday I'll become okay at taking compliments. Cause see, I'm in like critique mode already with my art. So like when someone gives me a compliment that reads as like a critique, kind of like this is good, it's like, well, it could be better. Whereas if someone's just like, oh, I really love this, there's no critique there, right? There's no... It's purely an opinion, right? Or this painting makes me so happy. Great, thank you. I'm happy. That genuinely makes me happy. But once it's like, this is good, and it starts to... Because that's already where my head's at, right? Like, my head is already in critique mode. And so if you say the colors are good, I'm like, I'm actively trying to fix them. Like, that's what... I'm stuck on them. I'm trying to problem solve the colors. And so it's hard to accept compliments that read as, like... that are already so close to the opposite of my internal dialogue. And it's not... I don't think I'm being hard on myself when I say that. I think it comes off that way, and I realize that, and I do want to get better at that. But that's kind of where I'm at, and I don't know. Like, I got changing to do, don't get me wrong. But I also want to make my stance a little bit more understood. Okay, so here's these things. Maybe these are there's some people sitting on these bleachers. Some fish people. Art is a critical field. You can always see the areas of improvement. It's hard to accept that someone might like what you think could be better. Yeah. And that's the thing, right? But that's where I think for me, especially with stream, I think I mentioned this earlier, but when I'm in the middle of a painting, like, because I'm actively working on it, I'm already in like critique mode. So if you compliment something that I am actively trying to problem solve, like, I have already accepted, even before you said that you like it or that you think it's well done, I've already accepted that it's not up to where I want it to be, right? Because I'm actively working on it. If it were as good as I wanted it, I would be done with it. I would be published. It would be out, not being worked on. But also another thing that I just thought of is, like, because I'm streaming, I don't always have, like, I'm not always slowing down when I'm reading a comment. I'm just reacting. I'm basically reading what you say, hardly thinking about it, right? Very little processing power, and I'm responding. And so a tiny little subtle, like, you know, phrasing change can completely be a difference of, like it can be the difference of how I respond, and, like, I don't even catch it because it's so subtle, and I'm not thinking about the things I'm responding to as carefully as I should. And if I would slow down a little, I could probably realize, oh, that's a compliment, and just take it as a compliment. But when I read something like "these are good," it almost doesn't register as a compliment. It registers as a statement about the art, almost like a critique, but like a good critique. You know, like, it's weird. I don't know. It's weird. Hey Basilisk, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. So yeah, I am gonna make some mermaid people. They're spectators. Spectating mermaid people. I think I'm gonna start with just drawing them as, like, silhouettes. I can see how it registers as value judgment, even if it's intended as a compliment. Yeah. And it's not like I'm not saying it is a value judgment. Obviously, to you, it's a compliment, right? Because you're the one giving the compliment, and you meant it as a compliment. But, like, when I'm not really paying attention, something that's like, this is good, or, you know, this is gorgeous, instead of, like, I find this pleasing to look at, right? Where that would be like, okay, no objection there, right? Because you phrased it as a you statement rather than, like, this statement, right? Rather than, like, and again, I can't get the world to change, so this is a me problem I need to change. I gotta work on this. But, like, I think if someone said something like, you know, I like the way you do perspective, or I like the way you pick colors. I think that's about you, right? You're saying, I like this thing. And I'm like, and there's almost no way I can be like, no, you don't. You know, I'm not gonna do that. I would never say that. So I'd be like, I'm happy you like it. But once you say, like, these colors are good, that might read the same to you as, like, you're just saying that you like them. But to me, it reads as, it's objective, like, they're good. And I'm like, are they though? So it's kind of a weird spot. I think it's a lot of, again, I think if I just slow down, I wouldn't have that problem, and I would be able to catch that. So it's a me problem, but yeah, it's tricky. I think streaming definitely makes that kind of thing harder for me. I don't know how I handle that outside of streaming. You know what I want to try? What if I put in lots of shimmery stuff? Is this going to be too bright? This might be too bright. As a fellow overanalyzer, I feel this pain. Okay, I'm glad I'm preaching to the choir here. It makes me feel like it's not completely lost on, like, lost in translation. I feel like, because it might be a hard, I don't know. I never know if it's hard to know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I'm just drawing some fishy legs. But not all of these people are gonna have fish legs. Some of them are gonna have regular people legs, kind of. Just lots of little characters up here. But yeah, I think so much of streaming is almost not mindless, but it's like it shouldn't be mindless, but it's my brain is more or less shut off and just coasting. And so yeah, it's a lot of times I don't even catch that it's a compliment. Like it's like I don't even realize that you're complimenting. And I think sometimes I would catch that. I think if I wasn't streaming, there would be sometimes I probably would still miss it sometimes because that's just how I am, I think. I think I'm pretty oblivious to a lot of things. A lot of little social cues and subtleties in language. Like, I think I can understand them and sort of analyze them when I sit down and try to be in analytic mode. But if it's just, like, in passing in my day-to-day life, I don't catch it. I'm in the choir too, but I'm laying under the risers. Which is worse. Trying to hide. Oh no! I don't quite know what that means, but that sounds not great. But I'm glad you're here, Basilisk. You're doing all right. You had some pretty bad CPTSD triggers at the ER a couple of days ago, so I'm pretty zonked. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. But that's what rest is for. Yeah, I hope you can get some good rest. I also overanalyze, but I don't say it out loud. I actually have this thing, and not have a thing, but it's a thing that I do. And it's sort of like a pastime of mine. And I like responding online to like people I disagree with, but not actually post it, but just use it as like a thought exercise of like analyzing a thing. There was, and I actually did post this one, but there was a random Reddit thread of, it was just like a person being bad in traffic, of like there was like a speeding car and overtaking another car, and the other car did a little swervy in the middle of the road, and then the car that was overtaking them ran into them, and there was a collision going very fast on like the freeway. And the comment section was so divided because both drivers did stupid things. But the driver passing was like speeding like a maniac, or seemingly. They seemingly also didn't signal, and they just changed lane and swerved. They weren't like in the passing lane and then they passed. They just were like, they went to the passing lane, sped up, and it was like very aggressive and weird and unpredictable and just chaotic. And then the other person seemingly reacted to this person, and they reacted in probably a panic because they thought a speeding car was going to rear end them, and so they swerved. Turns out they both swerved at the same time in the same direction, and they hit each other. And it was like, the comment section was so divided on like who's at fault, what's going on, and I'm just like trying to think this through, like, okay, well, from the perspective of the vehicle that was hit, like, you have a maniac coming after you, and you have, like, trying to take all the different sides and like as like just purely as like a mental, as an exercise of just like going through the different ways of viewing the situation. I don't know why, but I've always enjoyed that. And basically just like analyzing stupid things that are so meaningless. Like, why am I spending my time analyzing this dumb situation and thinking about all the factors that might make people react and behave in this particular way? I don't know, but I like it. It sort of gives me some joy to sort of armchair analyze random situations. But anyway, I've always enjoyed doing that a little bit. I don't know how that relates to what we're talking about, but it kind of feels like it does. We're just over-analyzing. Fish legs from How to Train Your Dragons? Yes, totally. Casey said, just start streaming. It destroys the filter. Just start streaming. Wait, just start streaming destroys the filter. My inside thoughts become my outside thoughts more frequently since I started streaming. It definitely is true while streaming. I don't know if it's bled into my real life, though. Maybe a little bit. There might be things that I get a little ranty and I'll go in, like, streamer mode while I'm talking to a friend and they're like, wow, chill out, bro. Or, like, you know, they won't say that, but it'll be, like, sort of that mood of, like, okay, you're like, who are you talking to? Like, because you're not addressing me. It's just, like, you're just venting. And it kind of has that vibe where I kind of go into, like, a ramble. And maybe I do that in real life a little bit much. So maybe streaming has made that worse. It's made me more insufferable. Just kidding. I agree. Joe should start streaming. Yeah, maybe one day. I'll try it. See how I do. Basilisk, have you ever streamed? Casey said I was responding to Basilisk, but I don't actually know. Basilisk, you might have streamed before. I can't recall. Yeah, streaming is so weird. Like, I thought it was going to be like, oh, a weird social... I mean, for some people, they do struggle socially with streaming because it's very uncomfortable for them. I thought I was going to be that way because I'm very awkward socially. Maybe not very awkward, but I'm pretty awkward socially. And yet, I didn't really have much problem with streaming. In terms of the awkwardness. Because it doesn't at all feel like... Yeah, it doesn't at all feel like real life. Not really. Let's see, what am I doing here? These silhouettes of these people... Can definitely get some shapes back here. I can't have people look over my shoulder when drawing. I get crazy anxiety. Well, that's the funny thing here. I do that too in real life. If I have someone looking over my shoulder in real life, it's very hard to draw. But for some reason, and I think for a lot of it's like knowing what you sign up for kind of thing, or like, because like I have been in, like I've drawn while in the same room as people, and I'm like terrified of them looking at what I'm drawing. But then I've also, if I'm showing someone and drawing with someone, I have no issue drawing in front of them. To me, it depends on, are they observing me drawing, or am I drawing for them, right? There's a difference to me, and it's like, did I know going into drawing that they were going to watch me? And as long as I know ahead of time that they're going to watch me, but like if I'm drawing and let's say I go on a walk or something, I'm drawing on a park bench, I'm just sketching. If I don't want people to walk up and see what I'm drawing, even though it's probably just like a tree, right? But like that terrifies me. But if someone said, hey, like, would you show me how to draw? Or like, would you like, oh, I'd love to get into drawing and I don't know, could I watch you for a moment? I'm like, sure, let me start something new. That wouldn't be an issue at all. As long as I'm starting from the start and they're not interrupting that, then it doesn't matter. And so for streaming, it doesn't matter because I know ahead of time that I'm going to be observed, and so I'm doing the whole thing sort of subconsciously. I know I'm being observed, and it doesn't feel like I'm being intruded on. There is no anxiety for me. It's a completely different activity than if like I'm just sketching and someone walks up. And it's such a weird difference for me. It may not be a big difference for you guys, or even something that you would notice, but for me it's like it's the difference between like literally hiding what I'm doing and like not letting someone see, and versus just like being open about it. So I definitely think it's made me more open about my art, but yeah. Thank you for the hydrate, Patman. Hope you're doing well, Patman. Casey says, perspective taking is a good mental exercise, though, and it feels nice to do a bit of problem solving to find a solution. I can see the appeal. I just hate conflict, so I avoid online debates. Yeah. Well, I mean, you don't have to actually type them. Like, again, I only engage in, like, random online debates or discussion, and I don't even always engage in them, but I only do it. It's purely a selfish thing. I'm not trying to change opinion. I'm almost no, okay, maybe not purely, but I'm mostly doing it for me. I'm doing it because just the act of like typing it out and organizing my thoughts on the page, it's like a writing exercise. It helps me understand my own views and confront my own sort of, you know, biases and ideas and things. I don't know. I like it. It's like a fun thing for me. It's kind of weird. Also, I don't know what this giant thing in the background is, but some sort of home or building. But yeah, this is just a very, very loose sketch, but I do like where this is going. These characters are playing... Okay, I need to find some references of mer people. So I have some that are from, like, Magic the Gathering, like this one. We can get rid of Word Greg here. Some more here. And I'm not quite sure what I want them to look like, but I'm, you know, just getting ideas of, like, oh, okay, they could have things on their heads. They could have, you know, different types of... Like, I'm not exactly sure what I want them to look like. But I gotta do some sketching here. Maybe they have uncovered, you know, like bare shoulders, so maybe get some teal in there. It took me a while to get used to the idea of watching, of people watching me draw on stream. Anxiety about being perceived, especially while making bad drawing. Yeah, that's still hard. Especially if I go in thinking that, like, this is gonna be me drawing for people, or like drawing in front of people, and then it's bad. That is hard. I still struggle with that a little bit. But if I go in knowing it's gonna be bad ahead of time, that I'm okay with. For a lot of, I think a lot of it's like, if things feel out of control for me when I'm streaming, I don't like that. If I'm being observed, I want to be in control of what I'm doing and what's happening. And to not be in control while being observed feels like... It just makes me very self-conscious. So, like, if I know that I'm learning something for the first time, I can have fun with it. I can make mistakes, make ugly art, that's fine. But if this is something that I've done a million times and it starts going south, I'm like, oh my gosh, I know I should be doing better than this, right? It's like, oh, I gotta perform better or something. And so there's a bit of performance thing there going on. It's tricky. Streaming is a weird mix of stuff, because, like, on one hand, we're doing new things, like we're drawing something we've never drawn before, so there's always a little bit of novelty, and there's obviously a chance for things to go wrong. So but you're also learning, you're also performing in a sense. It's a weird bag, and I think any number of things can make you feel a certain way when you're streaming. Anxiety about being perceived, especially making bad drawing, had me not wanting to be involved in online art communities for most of my life. Twitch is especially terrifying, and I still feel that sometimes. Yeah, I get you there. A lot comes down to that self-critique you were talking about earlier. I feel like my work isn't up to snuff, and don't want anyone, especially an artist I respect, to see my scribbles and judge me unworthy. Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel that with like the first impression type thing. Like when someone comes into stream for the first time, and I know, especially if I know that they're like a big name, I'm like, oh my gosh, this, I swear this isn't the best work I can do. Like, please don't judge me based on the first impression. Like, this isn't my best work. You know, I absolutely feel that. Like getting rated by like a big name or something, and you're like, you've never been here and you don't know what I do, and now I feel like I need to share what I do. And so there's this like this feeling of like immediately, ooh, let me switch to art that I made that is better. Also, I feel like maybe this person should have feet. Sea slug mer person time. Yeah, maybe. Sea slug mer person. Absolutely. You're not familiar with most famous. Well, neither am I, but like sometimes, I don't know. But like you can still kind of get a sense of like if a person is a big name or something, just because sometimes just how other people react. I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty mixed. Sometimes I get a little bit of like starstruck, but sometimes I don't. It really depends. Casey says, I think Art Gym has actually helped me overcome this feeling a lot because I get to say up front, hey, I'm here to get the bad drawings out. Let's struggle together. See, that doesn't bother me. So like, if I know that's kind of what I was talking about earlier, whereas like, if I know ahead of time that I'm going to quote unquote get the bad drawings out, I don't think that affects me. I think I'm okay with drawing, you know, quote unquote ugly stuff. Or bad drawings, or whatever you want to call it, right? Or stuff that you're not... It's not about the end result, right? It's not about looking pretty, it's about learning. And if that's purely what I'm doing, and I say it up front, that's fine. But if you're trying to draw something that you feel like you should already know, and then you hit that wall, that's where it becomes hard for me. It's that, like, it's sort of like the expectations, or again, that feeling of like the lack of control over my own stream. That's the part that really I struggle with. Twitch makes it hard to ignore if you get a raid with hundreds of people, though. Yeah, self-consciousness is instant. Yep. Oh no, tons of new people. Probably some art directors and industry people in the crowd. I'm drawing this exactly. Like. This could be, I mean, because again, this is, not again, I don't think I mentioned this, but this is something that, whether or not you, like, I've had pretty much from this time I started streaming, pretty much every commission I've had in some ways has been through streaming, right? It'll be people popping in and saying, hey, I like this, or, you know, a referral from somebody in stream, or something, right? Like, there are job opportunities that you can get from streaming. Like it's not all the time, but it would just be wrong to think that it isn't ever a thing. And so that first impression it's not a fake in my head thing. Like it's a very real thing. And so, but you can't always be worrying about it, and that's the struggle. Is because your brain's gonna be like, I'm gonna worry about this. I've decided that I'm gonna panic, and that I want to make that good first impression. But yeah, you very well could have an industry person who's like, hey, I think you'd be good for this project that I'm art directing. Because, you know, like, I like the stuff. And it's like, oh my gosh, But that's never gonna happen. But I feel like you can't stream for that, right? That feels like the wrong way to do it. You've got to just, you know, if it happens, it happens. But trying to make general colors. Right now, the lighting in this is terrible, kinda. Maybe not terrible, but the values are pretty out of whack. I'm just putting literal blobs of color. Trying to do like highlights, make the shapes read. Of course, characters with long flowing hair underwater. No. If they were playing sports, their hair would be. And maybe it's not hair. Maybe it's like a reef, like a coral thingy. Coral headdress. Yeah, this very Blitzball vibes. It's not supposed to be, but it does feel pretty Blitzball-y. I kind of want to make like wavy clothing, but that also feels kind of weird. Okay, maybe this one's a more classic mermaid. I could use some rim. Let's see. Let me read these comments. I'm hoping I can get a bit of a break after our game ships and maybe see if I can get in touch with Apple support to see if they can help. I just know its days are potentially weeks-long endeavor. Not that I can stream art anymore anyway. Oh. Yeah, that is sad. That is sad. We need more Thera art streams. You could stream from your phone and do IRL streams. Just throwing random crap out there. I have no idea. Yeah, don't listen to me. Just do whatever. See, I think Casey's has. See, I don't think I would ever do an IRL stream. Maybe I will. Maybe someday. Okay, maybe there's some colors here. Again, these characters are gonna be like sea creatures, right? So I'm okay with them having kind of funky shapes. In fact, the funky shapes might be preferable. Okay, now I wanna play around here for a second. I don't think the values and stuff read very well. Yeah, you can actually see that if I make this black and white. Yeah, okay, if I make this black and white. And this is another underwater scene for comparison. If you look at these values, the shapes are so clear, the silhouettes. These are not. And that's not to say that I need to like mimic the value structure, but I do think being aware of like the silhouettes and making the lights and the darks. I think this character has a lot of easy potential. Also, it wasn't blow dodge. Whoops. This character could absolutely have like. I mean, we could put light like this. This makes it look like some weird like religious painting or something. We have the light coming down from above here. yeah, lots of options here. You joke, but I think I could theoretically stream from your iPad Procreate since there's a screen mirroring function. Oh, interesting. So maybe I'll figure that out. Would just be sketches though. I don't paint much in Procreate. Yeah, that's fair. Now that'd be cool though. Yeah, I think what I want to do is come in here and make these shapes a little darker. Just so I can get better silhouettes. Oh, we were talking about this earlier. So this image here, we were talking about this last stream, where like the detail like on this horse or the seahorse, like there's a lot of detail. Also, this image is very low resolution because I grabbed it just from online as a thumbnail. But there's detail here, but then you get down to like the hoof, and it's just a silhouette. It's literally just the shape, and like the tail is just the shape. And yes, there's reasons why it's just a silhouette because it's farther away, but like, or it's in shadow. But a lot of the silhouette stuff is just that. It's not rendered shapes. Some of the stuff there's rendering, right? Like on the main character and over here and even down here on this weapon or whatever. But a lot of the shapes are just silhouettes. And I think that's something that like, you know, like maybe I just make this tail a silhouette here. You know, do I need anything more than that? Well, probably not at first. Right? This could just be a silhouette. And I can design the shape of that the way that I want. Or like the hand shape. Flayed hands. Not flayed, what's the word? Like, spread. I don't know what the word is. But yeah, I'm trying to make shapes that are appealing. Also, this character's shape is not at all appealing. Okay, let's see. Sorry, I'm struggling to follow chat for some reason. I think I need to take a second and just drink some tea and chill out here for a bit. Okay, Sarah says, like, I can technically use Photoshop on your iPad by mirroring, but I don't like it because the UI is really cramped, and also I can't see the brush cursor when I have it. Ooh, I see. After doing some plein air last month with gouache, I'm definitely interested in trying to do more aerial paintings, drawing painting streams. Nice. Okay, if I make this black and white, still it doesn't read super well. These characters, I think these characters are good, because they're very, not very dark, but I think these could definitely have a lot more, dark shadows. Just a lot higher contrast. But I also don't know what design they're gonna be. Like, what is this person wearing? Like, maybe there's like a bandolier or something around them. You know, their hair can... Maybe there's some sort of headdress thing that they're wearing. Some seashell hair. I know I shouldn't be sketching with like pure black right now, but here. I think this is not bad. Again, I'm just trying to add enough contrast. That's a lot of contrast, but just add enough contrast so that we can I can then start designing things better. I think that works. That's pretty good contrast. I think this character could actually be... Yeah, that character's not bad. I don't think this arm isn't in a good pose, though. Kind of make them spread out. Ooh, maybe like they're like this. And then this arm is... I'm trying to think how's this gonna work. This person's swimming, so how does the other arm... I don't know, where's the other arm? Here? No, their arm would be back here. There we go. I'm pretty happy with that silhouette, if I do say so myself. It took a bit of concentration. I think this arm still needs some help, but... it's not bad. I feel like this character kind of reads. Not quite sure what's happening with this shape here. Not bad. And now I do want these people to be like fish people, so maybe some fins on like their arms here. Right, like things like this, kinda. There, sports players doing sports things. Look at that. I think that kind of works. I mean, does it? Is the question, actually. What if I crop it inward? Do we need all that? Or can it just be this? Does this read? I see, I think that's better. And now... okay. We're cooking. Is that the phrase? We're cooking. Okay, we've got sports people. I feel like this ground plane can have... I don't know, maybe there's like shapes, like a circle. I don't know. Sorry, I'm concentrating. Or I was. Hello! KK Mousy, how's it going? We're drawing some mermaid stuff. So yeah, this is definitely something where like you could draw, and you know, I could spend all day rendering little characters here. Like, oh, they're sitting on the bleachers, and so you have characters. Also, like, what do the bleachers look like? What are they made of? I guess stones? I'm doing a personal mermaid this year, finally, in a sketchbook. Oh, nice! Yeah, my goal for mermaid is to do more or less one finished piece. It doesn't have to be this piece. It might be. But it's basically just something with characters, and where the characters are somewhat detailed or rendered, and not just silhouettes, but actually like, you know, designed a little bit. Uh, so yeah, it needs to be like the tube coral. That'd be kind of fun. Tube coral hair. And yeah, these people are like playing some sort of ball, some sort of sporting event. But yeah, I'm trying to think how do I want to do this? A lot of it's just playing around right now with color and stuff, trying to figure out what I'm doing. Also, I'm not even sure if I like the... Maybe these things we can also make more like tube coral. Back here, sort of big shapes sticking up. And maybe these things are like pinky in color, but very desaturated because, again, they are very far away. And they're underwater. And that's tends to be how things work underwater. So they get quite... Ooh, you know what? This color, though, is quite a nice purple. So now I'm thinking... Now I'm thinking we'll actually use that color. Somewhere else in the painting. So yeah, maybe we play around with that. So maybe I make a new layer, and I put in some little bright lights. Something like that. Just trying to make some underwater shapes that are... Yeah, maybe there's some ruins here. Some old architecture that makes it look like some... I don't know. Something. Kind of liking it. Almost like seashells and corals, and just having lots of shapes. Do I want this to come down here more? Like, what's the background doing? I don't know. I kind of feel like we have some shapes like this, just more silhouettes. And maybe some in the foreground too. Although I'm a little bit careful here because these shapes are... I think that works. Oh no, is that weird, or do we want overlapping here? Like, is that a weird tangent with the feet? Kind of weird, right? I think it's not bad. Okay, now the question is, do I like that this thing's only 1,500 pixels wide? Not really. I think I need to up the resolution. So I'm going to do that now. Up the resolution. Hello, WeGate. It's going well. How are you? How's it going, Recriner? I know I didn't say that right, by the way, but that's okay. We're just gonna... we're just gonna end. But yeah, how are you? We are painting. I'm reading and writing a last paper for your master's degree, so I'll be learning. Ooh, a last paper. Nice. Well, grats. Good luck. So what I am doing a mermaid painting with some characters, a little bit of illustration, some storytelling, people playing a sports ball of some sort. Also, what is this brush that I've been using? I don't know. Have I been using that the whole time? I didn't even realize I was using this brush. I think I just somehow switched brushes. But anyway, yeah, I am doing some illustration, some mermaid people playing ball of some sort. So yeah, it's been fun. I don't know if this is the actually going to be the painting that I end up finishing. I think it might be. I do like this. And I could see myself spending an entire stream like rendering characters and, you know, little characters down here. You know, some of them could be cheering. Maybe they're all wearing, you know, 2 different jersey colors or something. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of room to do stuff here. Lots and lots of options. But it is fun. This kind of thing is, especially scenes like this, where there's just a lot of, like, depth and you know, soft atmospheric stuff because of it's underwater. I can feel like there's a lot of just playing around with silhouettes that I can have fun with. I don't feel like I have to do too much. Although I could probably do a lot with the lighting. I haven't really done anything with the lighting yet. Also, this character's pose is a little weird. Bubbles and fish, or even a shark. Yeah, we could put some fish up here. Some bubbles. Yeah, I think a lot of that will be done later, once I really figure out what everything is. All these little characters will be here too, so, you know, maybe there'll be some funky looking fish people. Like a fish like this with the people legs. You know, your classic, this kind of fish. It's a mermaid. Half fish, half person. Just the other half. The other half of the person and the other half of the fish. I don't think I'm going to put those type of people in here, but it would be pretty funny. We could do little... I could even keep them cartoony and keep them just drawn with like a big bold line like that. And it would definitely give a different mood. Like the classic SpongeBob... Oh, is that how SpongeBob fish are? Gotcha. Yeah, that's the reverse fish. I didn't realize that was a SpongeBob thing. That's very lifelike, right? Okay, you've heard of mermaids, but what about mermaid murder or mermaider even? What do you mean? What are you saying? I'm sure if there's mermaid civilizations, murder happens, but also we don't call it humaning, like it, or humorder. Like, it's still murder. Murder doesn't have the root word of, like, human. Right? What are you saying? Oh, you're making a Metalocalypse joke. Okay, I did. That went over my head. I didn't know anything about Metalocalypse. Gotcha. Okay. Homicide. True, I guess we do have that. We do have that. Good point. We do have homicide. And that is the root of that. Yeah, maybe there is a word for it with mermaids. I don't know. That cup's huge, still gotta say. Yeah, it's a pretty big cup. Yes. Okay, this person's trying to, like, block the ball. Get the thumb going up here. Maybe a little bit of... Yeah, I like this. I like this pose. I'm not super keen on how this is looking yet, but we will get there. And yes, I just said the word keen. Okay, there. I kind of... Here, let me try some stuff. Let me try some color things. I'm going to take an overlay, and I'm going to take, like, a bright pinky red, and I'm just going to start hitting things with this color. I know this looks like blood or something, and this is obviously not going to be how it is, but I just want to play around. What if some spots in the background had these bright colors? Like bright underwater. I mean, I feel like I could get away with it, right? In fact, that might even be better. I think it works. Looks like an intense game of flipper ball, right? Yeah, heck yeah. The flipper ballers go hard. It's all about that flipper ball. Okay, I'm liking these colors though. And now, is there a way to bring another color in, like a green or something? I don't think so, but I'm like, what if we made this ball bright green? That's weird. Okay. So now let's think about what the audience, you know, we can have some people in here who have different fish colors and fish shapes and different things. You know, we can just start carving things out. You know, we can be like, you know, what do we want them to do? We could have like, again, we have some mermaid references or merfolk references, right? Stuff like this. Those characters, they don't all have to be buff, of course, but you know, they have, you know, different clothing and stuff. And I'm not like copying the exact clothing style or design, but I like that they're basically underwater aliens. So they can have, you know, funky gills and heads and things coming off of their body, sort of fins and you know, different shapes and colors. But I'm thinking, and then of course, you know, again, not all these people are going to be mermaid, like, you know, bottom half fins. Some of them, maybe they'll be like the like, this is the classic mermaid. This is like the non, what do we call it? The person with the feet. Person with the feet. Maybe some of these people are the footed people, and some of them are the mermaid people. So maybe these ones have the fins, and then these will have the feet. Ultimate Sharky says, I'm doing your 5th painting at the moment. Got a sandy colors cobble lane. Nice. Having trouble creating some large shadows. Gorgeous look awful and it doesn't look right. Gorgeous look awful and it doesn't look right. I don't know what that means. Can you show me quickly how you would do this? I remember I'm new to CSP, so I'm not familiar with technical methods and layer settings. Yeah, I'm happy to look at what you're doing, and if there's something that jumps out at me, I can help. Oh, colors look awful. Gotcha. I can take a look. Yeah. Feel free to drop a... Yeah, did you post it in Discord? I can take a look. Yeah, can't guarantee that I'll give any good advice, as always. Take everything I say with a grain of salt. But yeah, I'll take a look. Let me open up Discord real quick. Art. Works in progress. Let me know when you post it or where you posted it. I don't see it. Oh, you don't have it ready to share? Yeah. You wondered how to lay shadows. So the way I do shadows, I more or less just paint them on the same layer. I'll make a new layer and then I'll paint them like just like take a color that's essentially darker, not like a darker version of the color that I'm painting. So like I don't take like, you know, if I want to paint a shadow here, I don't like take this shadow color and like, oh, it's a blue, and then I don't just make it darker. I don't do that. I typically just take a darker color that's already existing in the painting and just like lightly paint on. And then of course with shadows, the tricky thing with shadows is that you already have a lot of complex forms. It's hard to allow yourself to actually like have to paint everything. So one way to do shadows I find that's really easy, and again this does use a layer mode, which is multiply. I like to set it to like you can do slightly like a colored thing, like a slightly blue gray, or even just like a gray. And it might take some trial and error, but you pick like a not too dark, but basically somewhere maybe, you know, 25% or something, and you just go over your whole painting and you make an entire layer and I realize you said that you're new to this, but if you go to layer mode, make a new layer, hit multiply, you can do that, and then you can erase where you want the light. So that's one way. You could be like, okay, I want the light to come in here, and you can erase it. You could also use a clipping mask or something. I realize that's more technical, but you can just literally erase. And if you want to paint it back in, you take your paintbrush, paint it right back in, and then you can erase where you want it. And you can do some stuff like that. The tricky part with this is that you still tend to want like defined shadows and light. So sometimes it's nice to carve out shapes. So for example, if this person's in light, we might go like this. There are probably better ways to do it, but this is certainly a way. You know, some of these will have light on them. This could be lighter up here because there's light in this scene. Light tends to come from above in underwater scenes. That's just how light tends to work. And then maybe there's some light on some of these things, and I'll make the shapes a little harder edge. I will have to come in because I'm using an airbrush that light has a lot of hard shadows. Not as much underwater, but so that's one thing. That's kind of how I would do lighting for this, is I might just make the whole thing darker. You could go in and paint shadows specifically, but sometimes it's easier just to paint light, so you can just reverse the process. That's something that I think is nice to remember. So yeah, that's probably the quickest way that I know of, is just to use a multiply layer. And then once I get to about this stage, right, I already have, like, now that I have some colors on, I can just go in here and just make a new layer and color pick directly from here. And so now anything that's bright is going to be in my distinctly in light layer. You know, this is all in light, obviously, whatever it might be, little characters back here. And then anything that's dark is now just in my shadow layer. So this, or not my shadow layer, it's all just in my shadows. You know, so anything back here is dark. If I wanted to add little occluded areas, I could make it even darker, right? Little lines like this are going to be these little deep dark spots. But basically there I've painted light. You could also make selections. I know, again, you said you're not, you know, you're still figuring out the tools, but you can make selections with like the lasso tool. Take a bright color that you've already selected and paint it to the bright light. to make like those brighter lights. A beautiful merman. Thank you. Siren, I hope you're doing well. Yeah, we're doing some storytelling here with characters playing some sort of sports ball. I think here we can actually bring in some red into their skin tone. And then right now they just look like human skin, and I think these people could be more fish colored. So maybe we bring in some blue. It's hard to have blue on blue though, so I'm trying to make them maybe just more like scaly or something. I don't know. Not quite sure how I want to do this. I don't want them to look too scaly, but I think this already is looking okay. But yeah, if that was not clear for that quick and dirty way of painting light, let me know. It's not always the way I paint light, but I do find myself more and more using overlay like that, just making the whole thing darker and then painting in the light. Obviously, if you've started with planning your light, that doesn't always work because you already have distinct shapes. But in this case, luckily, underwater scenes tend to be pretty like a soft light, right? Because the light's very refracted and it bounces around a lot. And so you end up getting a lot of like directional light, a lot of really dark shadows. So it actually works really well for this, where you can just treat the whole thing as being, you know, like you could basically just paint like normal without having to worry about light and shadow, and then you can add that shadow and light later. But some scenes you have these very clear shapes, right? Like if you were doing, if this were above water, right, you might have, you know, a lot of hard edge shapes, you know, and big cast shadows where you might have stuff like this being, you know, cast on your scene. That doesn't really happen that much underwater. But yeah, that's different, right? Or big shapes of like light like that. So it kind of depends on what you're doing. You definitely improved since watching it. Yeah, that's awesome. And keep in mind, it's always slow, right? Like improve it. You might even, I mean, you might make some big leaps and bounds occasionally, but mostly it's gonna be, pretty slow. Ooh, I like this. Okay, what am I looking at? There's two images. What's the difference? Let me see. I'm gonna put them on screen here. Let's close that. Don't save. File new. Wait, can I do this? Hold on. File new. File. Create new from clipboard. There we go. And then what's this one? Copy. Paste. Oh, I see. Okay, okay. I see what I'm looking at. So yeah, I think this is an example where what I just did might work, because this whole thing, like, one of the struggles with shadows that I find is that if you just add like one shadow, it's never gonna look right. No matter what you do, if you just take a color and add a single shadow, like, because you're never gonna have one shadow, right? Also, shadows aren't typically dark. Like if you look here, I can see that you're just like grabbing like a dark color, like, I don't know, just like making it darker and grayer. Shadows aren't just black. Typically, especially if you're outside and you have a blue sky, shadows are going to be blue because you have a blue sky light, and then you have a yellow sunish light, or yellowish light. Let's call it white. But that white light is so overpowering that all that blue light just becomes white. If you add all the colors together in light, it makes white, right? So you have this overpowering multicolored white light, and if you remove it, the only thing that's left is now the blue sky. So if you block out the sun, you're not left with black, you're left with blue, pretty much. It's just darker blue. So in this case, I would just use like a dark blue. So if you wanted like this part of the tree. The problem here though with shadows, with shadows is that, again, if you just add one shadow, it's probably not going to look right. But if you do add shadows, also you can't make them opaque, because if you make them opaque, it's going to look like a paint spill or something. So this is where painting lightly with like opacity controls is really nice, where you can paint over the top of an existing thing. So let's say you take like a blue, make it a little darker, and you paint lightly, but you still want to be able to see the stuff, right? Any details that you put. Sky blue. Sorry, not light. Yeah. So this might be a case where you could try, and again, there's lots of different options. You could try a multiply layer. This might not be the vibe that you're looking for, but this is kind of like you're adding shadow to everything. And then you're coming back in and saying, okay, well, what in my painting is in light? And so maybe this part's in light. And this is in light. And this is in light. And this tree is in light up here. You know, and maybe the top of the roof is in light. Or maybe the whole front of the roof is in light. Right? But not the underside, not this part, right? This part's not in light. So that can stay dark. And, you know, maybe there's... I'm probably not doing the shadows a very good job, but maybe there's some random bits of light back in here. And this is where, you know, maybe the sky, again, the sky is going to be kind of bright, probably, as skies tend to be. Maybe something like that. Maybe there's a little bit, you know, if we were to go back, maybe there was a little bit of shadow under here or under here that remained, right? And I'm just painting back in with that same color multiply. So I am using a little bit of like a fancy technique, and I acknowledge that. But that is one way you could do it, where you're using, you use like a multiply. And keep in mind, this should be like a blue, again, I just kind of made it darker. This whole multiply layer could be like a bluish color. Like a, you know, it could probably be closer to like that blue or something. It tends to be nice to make the shadows blue because you do have a blue sky. So that's one way. I think the painting in the light makes more sense because light is like a thing that you think about is like, this is the direct light. Because the other stuff is, shadows are still lit, right? Like, this still has light coming into it. It's just not your direct light. And granted, I do want to point out a caveat here because there's always caveats to everything in art. Not all scenes have direct light, right? If your scene doesn't have direct light, you might end up just doing like using a soft airbrush to paint in the shadows. Right? So, for example, you could even... This kind of works for, like, you know, you could do something like this, and then you could paint in the light again. Again, you might use an airbrush if it's just soft shadows, you know. I would be careful to not use too many airbrushes. I realized I made the shadows super crazy. But, you know, you could do something like that, where you just start painting in very carefully. This is obviously going to change the mood of the painting, because I completely changed the colors here. But yeah, just stuff like that. Basically, it's you start by making everything in shadow, and then you paint in the light. That's probably the easiest way. It's not the only way. It is good to, like, if you're painting from observation, and if you can see, like, I assume there's a photo that you have. You know, if you are using the photo, try to observe where the shadows are initially. And in your initial block-in, you might even try, like, you know, instead of jumping straight into color like this, you might even try using, like, a two-toned painting, where you do, like, anything that you think is in light, which might be the sky, it might be the ground, you basically just go over and do a pass, and I'm gonna do like a... Again, I'm gonna use a multiply here, just so that I don't have to think about opacity. You could just take like a blue and put on multiply, and you could just paint it in anywhere that you see shadows. You know, maybe the shadows from the tree, but just don't forget, like, the tree itself is gonna have a lot of shadow in it, right? You're gonna have shadow in the tree. There's gonna be leaves in here that are dark, and some leaves that are bright, right? You're gonna have... Technically, you would have some shadows in these cobblestones, right? Little occluded areas. You're gonna have shadows under these balconies. You know, this planter's gonna have shadow. A lot of this stuff's gonna have shadow, and, you know, you're gonna have shadows cast on the walls, and, you know, there's probably shadow everywhere. You know, just a little bit. There's gonna be shadow here, probably. Again, I don't exactly know where the light's coming from, but... So I think it's tricky to paint in all the shadows sometimes, because there's just so much. But I think it is a good habit to, like, learn to block in shapes and values. So that you're just, like, big general shapes. And I think with stuff like shadows, especially in complicated scenes, you can add... The more the merrier, kind of, right? Like, not always, but sometimes it's fine to add a lot of random little shadows here and there, because real life is messy. There's a lot of little random shadows. And so if you just add one shadow, it might look funny. But it's once you get like a sort of a threshold, you know, you have enough shadow information, then it starts to make sense. I don't know. I don't know if that made any sense. It might still be difficult. But that's kind of the way I would do it. You can either paint directly on top. Oh, I heard a Discord sound. Or you can do like a multiply layer and erase, or do a mask. But yeah, if you do paint directly on top, though, try not to use an opaque color. Shadows aren't opaque. They're not just like a dark blue or a black, right? They're typically they're transparent. You can see the stuff underneath them, right? So if the shadow goes over your cobblestones, you can still see your cobblestones underneath, right? I guess I could have used a more transparent brush, right? But you can still see your shadows. It's never pure opaqueness, right? It's not like this, right? That's gonna make it look like something spilled there. Anyway, that's my advice. Take it with a grain of salt. It may or may not be good advice. If anyone has anything to chime in, feel free. That you might be able to offer more than I do. You can see my improvement. I do see your improvement. You're doing great. For only your 5th painting, that's crazy. Painting opaque. No, sorry. Yeah. So the paint that you're using can be opaque. But the shadow on the page... Yeah, no, I think I worded that wrong. If Sarah didn't get what I was saying, then I think Sharky's not gonna... Sorry, I didn't mean that the... What I mean is, if you're painting over the top of an existing thing, that existing thing... Yeah. I'm not saying... Yeah, you'll see the materials. Yeah, no, I think using an opaque brush is great. In fact, I think if you do that, that's just a better... I think that's just a better way to do it, and it's harder, but it's going to make you a better artist for it, is by making decisive decisions and knowing the color where you want to place it. But I think in terms of, if you're adding them over the top of your painting, I think we've ruled that out, for the most part. If you're oh, let me paint shadows after. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's possible that you could still paint them in like that, but then you're basically repainting everything. Yeah, no, I think it's good to paint opaque shadows. In fact, that's why I think, sometimes I will do, a rough pass to get, a value thing, and once you know your values, for example, if this is light, if this is in light, and this is in shadow, right? When I'm coming in here and painting, I am now using an opaque brush, right? I'm trying to emulate that. So, if I want, maybe I want some purples in here, and I'll make these purples. I'm using an opaque brush right now. This is a solid color. I'm not lightly pressing it on. I'm trying to make decisive decisions. But my initial, like, sometimes that initial, like, value pass, if I haven't done it already, won't be opaque. But again, this is where, like, sometimes when you start your initial sketch, could also just be, like, a two-tone thing. So, like, you could literally have, like, black and white and say, you know, here's gonna be my shadows, here's my lights. You know, you're gonna have some shadow back here. These are gonna be shapes. And basically just two values. And then from here, maybe something like this, I don't know. Right, maybe this is your painting. And then from here, you can start making choices like, okay, this is my shadow and it'll be opaque. But here you already have shadow information, right? Or if you wanted to take this and overlay it on top of another painting, right? So like if you did like something like that and you did like a multiply, that's not gonna work. Overlay, that's maybe that. And where then you like take your value sketch that you've done earlier and then like, I don't know, there's different ways. There's so many different ways to paint. There's no right or wrong way. But yeah, my point that I was trying to make though was that you can't just take a color and paint completely opaque unless you're adding in that nuance of like, okay, here's the cobblestones, right? Like each of these are the cobblestones. Then you can paint opaque, but you're gonna need that variation in your paint, right? You could hand paint every single thing and say all of these are in shadow, but you're gonna have to add variation because you can't just take a single color and be like, oh, it's solid. If that makes sense. So yeah, you can definitely paint opaquely, but make sure that the shadows, they read like as they're transparent over the material. I don't know, that... Yeah, okay, anyway. Hopefully that cleared it up. Barrymore, how's it going? He said, Joe, I have a strange question. Well, I have a strange answer. Is color variation always done with hard edges? No. Like, I've never seen color variation in wood, stone, where a soft brush, rounded brush is used. No, there is. So it's like the Fresnel effect is my favorite. And basically, no, lots of colors have gradient. What do you mean? Like I mean, you mean. Well, first of all, you could imagine like a tube, like a rounded object, and you would have a shadow that is not... Maybe I don't understand the question. You could have something like this, where you're going to have a color gradient that goes around the form, because this part is lighter. But you also have things not just with light, but you also have like different materials at lower angles. Like a surface, for example, if you have like a... Here, let me use a different example. If you just have like a... Yeah, there's so many ways to do color variations. Yeah, but no, you definitely can have soft edged brushes. A lot of times when you have like an object like this, let's say a table. Here, let me start by making a square. So, you know, every good art demo starts with a good old cube or a sphere, but I don't want... Oh, let me just do this. There we go. Okay, good old cube. But I'm only gonna focus on the top today. Hold on, let me do this. So one of the things is that if you have a top of a cube like this, a lot of times the further away... I'll make a selection here. This is the worst explanation I've ever done. But a lot of times when you have a cube like this, even if it's being lit evenly from the sky, so let me do this. So even if the sky is being evenly lit, right, perfectly evenly lit, this object isn't going to appear as an evenly lit object. What you actually might see is a slight gradient, and this is where you can use an airbrush, right? You're going to see a slight gradient like that. The Fresnel effect. Yeah, the Fresnel effect. Isn't that what I said? I think I said Fresnel effect. Basically, the Fresnel effect is this effect, where because you're looking, this angle is steeper, so like from the side view, here, let me redraw this. Let me make a new layer. New file. So the Fresnel effect is like, it's just like math, basically, but yeah, there is an S, but that's how you say that word. It's not Fresnel. It's Fresnel. Like Dufresne with an S is Dufresne, but not Dufresne. It's like I think it's a French word. They say it funny. I'm pretty sure it's I don't know if it's French. I'm pretty sure you don't say the S. But anyway, that's not important. But yeah, so if you're here and you're an observer, right? Here you are, and you're like, hello. And you're viewing something. Let's make the observer very tiny, just so I have more space. Right? This is you. And you are looking across the ground. Because this path... So, like, if you're looking into the water, for example, or across any surface, and you have two things that you could be looking at, this one, even if it's not like a super reflective material, even if it's just like wood, it's gonna pick up more shine from just like stuff because you're at a lower angle. So that lower the angle here that you're looking, so like if you're looking into water, you can see straight through it. If you're looking out across it, you can't. It's gonna reflect all that sky, right? Things, and this is not just true of water, it's anything with any amount of shininess, which is pretty much everything, will have some amount of like shine. Even if you aren't even really perceiving it, it's gonna be super subtle. Even if it's wood, even if it's concrete, it doesn't matter. If it's wet, it's gonna be even more, but it doesn't have to be wet. It's really just anything. Things get a little bit more reflective as you make this angle steeper and steeper. If it's really far away and you look, it's gonna be, and this is also true of like if you have a cylinder, right? That angle gets steeper and steeper on the edges, so you can get a little bit less detail. So if you want to be able to see the texture, that texture is going to be most apparent here, right, in these areas, and then it's going to sort of fade. Technically, you could reverse it, but like, you're not going to be able to see super harsh things. That light's going to be just a little bit softened a lot of times on the edges of objects. And then you might be able to see some things here, some detail, and then right around the edges where it gets steeper, it's going to kind of blend and blur, and it's not going to be super clear. Now, that a lot of artists will do the opposite, and they'll paint, right? They'll actually smooth out the middle, and they like the detail on the sides because it adds more info. But in real life, it has that effect of like things just get a little bit shiny. So if you're trying to add gradients to things, the further away is typically going to be either a little brighter. Think like water looking down across a lake. It's just a super subtle gradient. So you might have little gradients going from this side to that side. Again, this could be color gradients, right? Artists will express it in it's not just in color, but it's also in value and saturation. So you might have little gradients going from front to back, from this corner to that corner, because nothing's ever like perfectly flat on, right? So you're gonna get little gradients all over in objects, right? It's gonna be, yeah, they'll be smooth. I mean, realistically, they'll be pretty smooth unless you're trying to intentionally make them painterly. You know, you might get a little bit of one here. Like I'm not good at rendering, so I'm gonna be a bad example of this, but you know, that's gonna be a thing, is you'll see more, there'll be just a little bit of a gradient. Again, it might be almost imperceptible, and if you do the illusion right, you're probably not even gonna notice, but there will be a tiny bit. It's super subtle, and it's like a material rendering thing, right? So I wouldn't worry about it early. But yeah, no, that's totally a thing where there's soft, smooth, you know, again, like an airbrush, if that makes sense. And then, of course, that's only in, like, rendering, but you also just have, like, big motifs, like from, you know, like in a sky. Oftentimes skies are, I mean, this may not be what you meant, but oftentimes skies are, you know, lighter down at the bottom, and, you know, you can add that in a smooth gradient. You know, there's no reason you can't do, like, a skyline like this, and it's smooth gradient into deeper blue up top. Now, a lot of people like, you know, painterly things and brush strokes that are painterly, but you could do that. Lots of things have gradients. And again, same is going to happen here. You can have, I mean, it's an atmospheric perspective. And so, yeah, there's little gradients everywhere. Everywhere you look, there's gradients. Again, I don't know if that was answering you. Lower viewing angle equals more reflection. Yeah. And it depends on material, right? Different materials are going to have less obviously, like, dry concrete isn't going to seem super reflective. Probably imperceptible, but it's there. Sorry, did I ramble really hard? Was that an answer, Fairmora? I don't know if that's even what you're talking about. I think people just like painting with textury brushes, but no, you'll see gradients, whether it's in color. And I realize this is just value variation, but there's still also hue variation, right? I didn't add any here, but I should have. I should have added hue variation, right? I could have gone like this. Right, so it could have been hue variation too. Very rarely is it just value variation. So even if an artist adds value variation, and no hue variation, it probably could be colored, you know, temperature-wise or something. Yeah, porous materials aren't going to get a ton of reflection, but they will. They'll have a tiny bit, right? That's the thing. And that's where, like, if you really want to exaggerate color and mood, that's where there's a lot of room for, like, artist expression, right? Is, like, really playing with those colors, pumping up those little, you know, that light bouncing around and changing up the variation. Anyway. But, and there's probably way more areas where you can have little, like, gradients of value and hue. But yeah, and I think anytime you change value, you can also change hue, right? Like, it doesn't... You can just have little subtle variations here and there. I think it adds life, right? It just makes it more believable, because real life has a lot of little tiny variations that are super hard to perceive, but sort of as a whole, they add life to it. They make it more exciting. Since we're doing a critique stream, want to tell me your opinion on my mermaid sketch? We're not doing a critique stream, but I am happy to ramble a bit. I don't know. Gosh, I don't like critiquing sketches too much. I don't know. I can take a look. I don't know if I'll give a critique. Ooh, I like that. Oh, Sharky, since we were on this topic, and I think this is a really... Now that I can see the actual photo. Yeah, this is a tricky one, because it is... There's a lot of spots where shadows exist, right? Like back in here, where it doesn't really feel like a shadow. But this whole building isn't shadow. This whole thing is a shadow. If you notice that, like, this is the light, right? This is like a raking light. You just have the texture, so it's a very dull light. But yeah, this whole building is in shadow. It's like partial light, right? I think it's partial light. But it's pretty much in shadow. Actually, I don't know. It's very, very subtle, right? Whatever it is. Whether you want to call it light or not, I don't really care. But yeah, there's a lot of random shadows in here, right? Shadows back here. Shadows here, and so there's just so much shadow, and that's when, like, adding this shadow, which seems like the big obvious shadow, but, like, this whole tree is in shadow, minus the few spots that are, like, in light, right? There's a few spots here that are poking out, but, like, most of this is in shadow. Like, all these silhouettes are pretty much made by the shadow shapes. And so it's real tricky, I think, because sometimes you don't even know what isn't shadow, right? You see something like this, and you're like, oh, this is bright. But if if you're careful, you'll actually see that this clearly is light, and these are shadows, and this is probably all. These are obviously more occluded areas. But anyway, this is a cool image. Good image. That's a good image to do. You could get so many different studies out of this one. This is a cool image. I like it. Okay, back to rambling. I need to render this so badly. This thing is, the more I look at it, the more I don't like it. But I think this will be a fun painting to work on. I probably am not going to paint on this much more today, because I'm going to be rambling here. I'm going to take a look at Druffzilla's work and see. But yeah, I'll take a look at some sketches. Are they in Discord? Ooh, these are so good. Okay, I don't have any critique. Yeah, I can't really critique mermaid paintings, but these are great. I like these. Ooh, I love the designs here. Look at that. These are super cool. Yeah, I don't have any critique. Sorry, Druff. I'm not going to be very helpful. I like what I'm seeing, though. I feel like these are better than anything I've ever done, so... yeah. No, these are good. Cool designs, nice, good graphical shapes and silhouettes. Like, what more... I don't know. Yeah, definitely not in my wheelhouse right here. This is out of my comfort zone to critique. Like, this is... if I did these, I would be over the moon. Yeah, shadows can have different levels of darkness depending on how direct light sources. Yeah, exactly. Like, when you have a shadow that's just barely hitting the thing, like, I don't actually know, dude. I think some people consider that like a halftone. They consider it part of the light, right? Like a mid-tone, and they consider that part of the light. I never really got that distinction, to be honest. I consider that shadow, and just with more bounce light, or like just a slightly brighter shadow. Like, it's still shadow to me, but I don't know if it matters. I think what matters is that in your head, there's some distinction and way to draw the line of like when you think of something as a shadow and not, so that you're consistent. But I don't think it matters if you think of it as the light or as the shadow. I don't know. I think of it as shadow, but that might just be me. What do you think about the top two poses? I think I really like this one. This one's a little harder to tell what's going on with like these random arm things, but that might also be just me not knowing what the design is. I like it. I think this one's super cool. Yeah, number 2 is... I feel like it's a little unclear what some of the shape and the designs are. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not quite... I feel like if this were a character design, which it is, I'm not quite sure what I'm looking at. And I get that it's these things, right? Like these little arm thingies. But I also feel like you clearly went over these multiple times to like bolden them up so that we can see them. And that kind of makes them feel like they're bigger and bulkier and more prominent, and like they're more of a focal point than that you probably want them to be. Whereas like in this, they're kind of just almost like they feel like they're just like strands or clothing, and they just kind of fade to the background. Whereas this one, they're so prominent, I'm like, what am I looking at? And I almost feel like that's just like again, even in sketching, right? It feels like you've drawn attention here. I think maybe if you clean it up a bit, it might not be as confusing. I don't know. It probably is not as clear. I think this one's, to me, very clear. But I like them. I think they're cool. No real comments. 10 out of 10, no notes. Other than the notes I just gave. Okay, speaking of which, I shouldn't be critiquing when my art is looking like this. Anyway. Thank you for the follow, by the way. Okay, I'm probably not going to paint on this much longer. I think the base of this is not too terrible. Kind of trying to figure out how to... making sure this thing reads... it reads kind of wellish. What am I doing here? Yeah, that kind of reads... I don't know. I don't really want to render anything today. Should probably figure out how murky all this water is. Actually, I kind of like that. Okay, maybe I'll sketch in some little characters in here, because these are going to be little characters. Or at least we can start sketching in little characters. Some arms. Maybe they're... Oops, sorry about the Discord sounds. Let me go back. Maybe I can close Discord. I don't know. I'm gonna exit Discord. No more looking at Discord for me, because I turned off streamer mode. I probably could have just turned streamer mode back on so that my Discord sounds don't go off. But that was me. If everyone just checked Discord, I apologize. But yeah, maybe we have little characters here. They're watching the event. Oh, they should probably be looking up at the event, huh? Because that's how people do. That's what people do when they're looking up at something. They tend to have to bend their necks. And these are going to be fish people. I don't quite know how I'm going to do it, but maybe they'll have little gills, things on their hair. Maybe they're eating snacks, like they have a thing of popcorn. Sorry for sidetracking your stream. No, that's not sidetrack. That's content. It's weird to call that content. No, it's good. I like it. I'm basically done painting here anyway for today. My brain is tired. I'm tired. Also, this character should be bigger because they're more in the foreground. Also, maybe there's fish, tiny fish swimming around. There could be some small fish. Hi, tired, I'm dad. Amazing. But yeah, it's, I am pretty tired, so... It's nice to have a little break and switch gears and switch things up. I could get very monotonous. Some little fishies swimming around in the ocean. Schools of fish here and there. There, just little stuff like that, just adding some life. We can add little sea creatures and stuff all over, and I'll probably add a lot of stuff as we work on this next stream. I think I'll work on this next stream. I might do some sketching in between now and then and come up with some little character designs or something. A little mermaid design that I can sort of not copy paste, but I can use it as like a template for what these people look like. Because I don't know what these are gonna look like yet. They're just blobs that hopefully are starting, or they could start to, yeah, just like a bleachers with with people. Fish people. They're watching this event. These people are watching this event as well. There. Yeah, I think this is a good spot to stop. Although, actually, maybe I say that, and then, just kidding. I'm not gonna stop. I actually want to add some vibrancy to these characters. I feel like we can totally get something. Like these colors. These pinks in here are way cooler than whatever I was doing. It's Flipper Ball Finals. Sold out. Yeah. Flipper Ball or I don't know. I think we can come up with a better name than Flipper Ball. It's not a bad name, though. Trying to add a little bit of vibrancy to these characters. One got legs, one got tails. Yeah. You bet on Team Tails? Okay. Yeah. One has tails. And I wanna show that in here. Like some of these people are gonna have tails, some of them will have feet. And I just want to show a variety of characters. Some tube corals down here. All sorts of little plant life. And we'll do some shape design and all that as we work on this. You know, playing around. I think this will be fun. This will be a fun painting. This is gonna be my mermaid painting. Like that, maybe? I don't know. I'll have to work on more anatomy stuff, but I think this is actually not a bad start. Pretty happy with how things are going here. I don't just want to make them look human, though. I do want to add, like, fishy features. You know, gills and things and you know, basically make them not look superhuman. But I don't want to make them look just like complete, like, you know, monster things. I want them to look kind of, I don't know, kind of neat. But also interesting enough to where, you know, they have shapes and they have, you know, a silhouette that isn't completely human. Maybe this one will look more human because this one is gonna be like less. It's gonna be more human because it has legs, but it's gonna be less human because it's gonna have more like distortion. Do you remember the creepy siren creatures in Goblet of Fire? Oh, kinda. Yeah, those kind of like that, except maybe basically just aliens underwater that are like sea creatures. Yeah, those are cool. I like that brand of mermaid, kind of like fairies, right? There's a lot of, like, if you read many fairy stories with fairies in them, fairies are oftentimes like kind of vicious creatures, right? They have like an allure and a charm to them and can kind of like, you know, glamour themselves to look like humans sometimes, or they can sort of, they have like a sort of a deception magic sometimes, but they can be kind of like awful creatures, right? They can be very vicious and almost mean-spirited. And like I always thought that's kind of a cool thing. Same with mermaids. Like mermaids don't have to be these like majestic underwater creatures. They can be these kind of terrible things, like almost like just these sea creatures that are, you know, they have their own societies and rules, but to humans they're just like they don't share our interests necessarily, and so they might be seen as kind of vicious. And I always like that. I think that's a cool way to have creatures. But anyway, let's go raid somebody. Is Casey on today? I don't think she streams on Thursdays. But we'll find out. She is online. Wait, Casey's on. She must have just went live. She's just chatting. She's just chatting. Let's go just chat with Casey. Yeah, she streams like twice a day. She's crazy. Anyway, thank you again for everyone being here. I appreciate it. If you want to follow me, you can on all the socials, including Patreon at patreon.com/jstiller30. All the socials are jstiller30. I'm jstiller30 everywhere. Thank you for supporting and being here and watching. Okay, take care. Bye. Let's go say hi to Casey.